Chapter 549. Hearing this, Xianxia's face lit up. She said, "Boss, why are you being so courteous? Take your time searching. I'll keep the Yuhuandan pill for you." Chen Fengxiao cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, little brother. I'll take my leave now. I'll go back and search carefully. To be honest, I have quite a lot of medicinal herbs. Although I lost a lot to the pill department, it's still very little after so many years." After saying this, Chen Fengxiao stood up and turned to leave. However, he didn't forget to remind her, "Little brother, if anyone comes looking for you, don't give the Yuhuandan pill to them." Zhang Xiaohua was immediately unhappy when she heard this. She thought to herself, "Is my character that bad? I just promised you that I'll get the medicinal herbs tomorrow morning. How can I give it to someone else?" Therefore, Zhang Xiaohua stood up and said, "Boss, please wait a moment." After saying this, she walked to the table next to her and opened up the bundle that she had packed. She took out the Yuhuandan pill that Chen Fengxiao was determined to get. She casually threw it to him and said, "If boss doesn't trust me, or if you're afraid that someone else will take it away, then you can take the pill first." Chen Fengxiao hurriedly caught the jade bottle that Zhang Xiaohua had thrown to him. He was very happy in his heart. This guy has finally been enlightened. I'll have a bright future in training him. However, he declined. "This isn't good, little brother. Even blood-related brothers settle accounts clearly. If you do this, you'll make things difficult for me." Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "What kind of person is boss? If I don't trust you, then there won't be anyone on Tianmu Peak worth trusting." "Good, little brother. Well said. I'll remember your feelings." It was rare for Chen Fengxiao to be so happy that he even blurted out the name, Chen. Presumably, he would wake up laughing even in his dreams tonight. Chen Fengxiao carefully tucked the jade bottle into his bosom, cupped his hands, and quickly walked out of the small courtyard. His footsteps were so light that they didn't seem to touch the ground at all. Behind him, Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but shake her head. He really didn't feel that this ruined Yuhuandan pill was of any use. Otherwise, he would have taken a look at it back then. Seeing that it was getting late, Zhang Xiaohua sat down again and prepared to use the remaining time to work harder. But at this moment, a voice called out from outside the courtyard, Junior Brother Ren, are you in the courtyard?" Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. It was almost midnight. Who would be screaming? When she looked with her divine sense, she saw two people standing outside the courtyard. One was Senior Brother Bai Huan, and the other was an old consecrator who made the ruling in the gambling arena during the day. Zhang Xiaohua was surprised at first, but then she muttered, "Is it because of this Yuhuandan pill again?" Therefore, she didn't dare to be negligent. As she walked out, she answered loudly, "Which senior brother is looking for me? Please come in for a chat." Hearing Zhang Xiaohua's response, Bai Huan led the old consecrator into the courtyard. Zhang Xiaohua was shocked and quickly bowed. "Consecrator," Bai Huan explained, "Junior Brother Ren, this is the old consecrator of our pill repository hall. His surname is Feng. He's very popular on Tianmu Peak and is best at guiding the younger generation." Zhang Xiaohua bowed again and said, "Consecrator Feng, how are you? If there's anything, just send someone to call for me. How can I let you come here personally?" Consecrator Feng had heard of Zhang Xiaohua's fierce behavior last night and was afraid that she wouldn't give him face. Now that he saw that Zhang Xiaohua was respectful and courteous like a well-educated and well-behaved child, he couldn't help but feel happy. Therefore, he supported her, stroked his beard and said, "Junior nephew Ren, although I'm considered an elder of the sect, I'm from the pill division and I'm from the grass division. We don't know each other well, so I don't dare to act rashly." After hearing this, Zhang Xiaohua hurriedly invited Consecrator Feng into the room and sat down. Then she asked carefully, "May I know why Consecrator Feng is looking for me?" Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua went straight to the point, Consecrator Feng nodded secretly and glanced at Bai Huan. Bai Huan woke up and said, "Junior Brother Ren, didn't Wu Dalong of the pill division compensate you with a Yuhuandan pill at the gambling arena earlier? Consecrator Feng is very interested in this pill and asked me to bring him here to ask you if you can transfer the pill to him." Then she glanced at Consecrator Feng and added, "He's willing to pay a high price and will definitely satisfy Junior Brother Ren." As expected, Zhang Xiaohua nodded secretly. However, she was also puzzled. Was there any secret about this Yuhuandan pill that she did not know? After thinking for a while, Xianxia said apologetically, although I've only met Consecrator Feng once, since senior brother Bai brought him here and he's a consecrator of the hall, there shouldn't be any problem with this matter, but... Consecrator Feng frowned and could not help but ask, what? But before Consecrator Feng arrived, Headmaster Chen took the pill away first. This. Consecrator Feng was a little anxious and said, how can it be so coincidental? I saw them drinking together, so I hurriedly called Martial Nephew Bai over. Could it be that I was still a step too late? Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, I don't dare to deceive Consecrator Feng. Look. After speaking, she opened her bag and the pill inside was revealed. Although Consecrator Feng was a little embarrassed, he still took a closer look. The Yuhuandan pill was indeed not there. They came here rashly and Zhang Xiaohua definitely did not have the ability to foresee the future, so she would not have hidden it in advance. Consecrator Feng was already somewhat convinced. He then saw Zhang Xiaohua say, if Consecrator Feng needs it urgently, you can chase after Headmaster Chen now. He also just left and may not have returned yet. Consecrator Feng's face was full of disappointment. He shook his head gently and said, no, no, no. Sai, if I had known, I would have stopped you on the spot. All right, Martial Nephew Ren, thank you very much. I'll take my leave. After speaking, he cupped his hands and walked out of the house without staying any longer. Bai Huan, who was sitting on the chair, also quickly stood up. She waved her hand at Zhang Xiaohua and chased after him. Nonsense, the bamboo forest outside was so gloomy. He did not dare to stay alone. Zhang Xiaohua pretended to send him off. When she reached the door, the two had already left the courtyard. Standing under the water-like moonlight, Zhang Xiaohua was deep in thought. A defective Yuhuandan pill was enough to make them fight over it. What about the real Yuhuandan pill? Hee hee. Zhang Xiaohua's face was full of smiles. She still had a few pills in her money pouch. Chen Fengxiao had been here, Bai Huan had been here, and Consecrator Feng had also been here. Presumably, the news that the Yuhuandan pill was no longer with her would soon spread throughout the entire Tianmu Peak. In the future, no one would come to trouble her. However, using the Yuhuandan pill to exchange for medicinal herbs reminded Zhang Xiaohua. Pills were hard currency on Tianmu Peak, but medicinal herbs were worthless. It should be very easy to exchange pills for medicinal herbs. Should she exchange all the pills she won tomorrow for medicinal herbs? It seemed that tomorrow's gambling fight was not a gambling fight, but a welcoming party for her by the pill department. Zhang Xiaohua released her divine sense and roughly scanned her surroundings. After confirming that there were no abnormalities, she closed the courtyard door and set up a restriction. She then concentrated on practicing the Worry-Free Heart Sutra. The next morning, Zhang Xiaohua had just finished practicing the Fist of the North Star, when she saw Chen Fengxiao walking over with a smile. Behind him was still Qiu Wei Cheng. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua walking over from the cliff, Chen Fengxiao laughed loudly and said, little brother, you are indeed a diligent person. I thought you had not woken up yet. Who knew that you had already practiced martial arts once? Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, the early bird gets the worm. This is what my mother told me when I was very young. I have been stupid since I was young, so I had to wake up earlier than others. Hearing this, Chen Fengxiao's expression was not happy. He said sadly, Sai, my mother also said this when I was young. It's just that. Haha, little brother is still young and has a lot of time. You must practice your martial arts well. When you travel the Jianghu in the future, you must remember to visit your mother more often. Seeing Chen Fengxiao reveal his true feelings, Zhang Xiaohua sighed. Regardless of whether this person was good or bad, or whether his actions were right or wrong, at least when he talked about his mother, he was filial. This person had his redeeming qualities. Zhang Xiaohua said apologetically, leader, please don't blame me. I spoke inappropriately and made you think too much. Chen Fengxiao waved his hand and said, no need to be so polite, little brother. Yesterday I made it clear that you are my brother. In front of your own brother, why do you care so much? Then with a wave of his hand, Qiu Wei Cheng, who was behind him, passed a small bag to Zhang Xiaohua. Chen Fengxiao smiled and said, little brother, in this bag are the medicinal herbs that I promised you yesterday. Take a look, There is one iron bone grass that is almost 70 years old. The other herbs are not as good, but they are still around 30 years old. Iron bone grass. Zhang Xiaohua was stunned and thought, isn't this the main ingredient of the bone-solidifying pill? Zhang Xiaohua took the bag and said, Leader, you said that you were my brother and that there was no need to be so polite. Why are you being so polite? Didn't you say that there was only one herb yesterday? Why are there more herbs today? Little brother, you are wrong. This Yuhuandan pill is something that I have been coveting for a long time. Not to mention these herbs, even if there were more, I would be willing to take them out. I am taking advantage of little brother by doing this. Oh, right? Saying this, Chen Fengxiao took out a jade bottle from his chest and passed it to Zhang Xiaohua, saying, this is the blood-replenishing pill. Perhaps it will be useful in today's battle. Take it. Zhang Xiaohua declined and said, this thing has already been compensated by Wu Dalong yesterday. I also brought some from Rejuvenation Valley. Furthermore, you have already given me so many herbs. This is not necessary. Chen Fengxiao stuffed it into his hands and said with a smile, take it, take it. This way my heart will be at ease. Zhang Xiaohua had no choice but to accept it. However, holding the warm jade bottle, Zhang Xiaohua suddenly asked, that's right, leader, I have a question. Look, this jade bottle is originally made of jade, and this jade seems to be about the same as the golden leaf. Why did you casually give away this jade bottle that contains the pills and become flustered when you see the golden leaf? Isn't it a bit like buying the casket and returning the pearls? Please vote for me. Recommend me. Come and read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 550. When Chen Feng heard this, he shook his head and said, little brother is right. I remember when I was a child outside, jade was very precious. It was no less valuable than gold. But little brother only saw one side of it and did not see the other side. Generally speaking, the rarer something is, the more precious it is. In this fragrant religion, there are countless jade stones, just like ordinary stones. Why would you care about it? Even if others see them as treasures, they are nothing but rubble in our eyes. Countless? Zhang Xiaohua was stunned and asked, how did Xianxia cult get so many jades? This. Chen Fengxiao pondered for a moment and said in a low voice, Xianxia cult has a special Shuyu hall that mines jades from Jiuhua Peak. It is said that in these thousands of years, there hasn't been much mining, but there is still an inexhaustible supply of jades. Tell me, in our eyes, can jades be compared to gold leaves? Oh, so that's how it is. Zhang Xiaohua came to a sudden realization. Presumably, there was a jade mine beneath 9 Radiance Peak. That was why it was able to provide an endless supply of jade for the incense cult to use. No matter how precious a jade was, it wouldn't be worth much and could only be used as a bottle. Oh right, Headmaster Chen, yesterday Feng. Zhang Xiaohua told Chen Fengxiao about Feng's visit last night. Chen Fengxiao nodded. Yes, Bai Huan already reported this to me last night. It's already the middle of the night, Chen Fengxiao chuckled. When he heard that I was the one who took it, he was afraid that he would violate my taboo by bringing Feng here. Do you think he would be so diligent? Qiu Wei Chang also laughed. After Headmaster Chen knew about this, he immediately told me to spread the news of him taking the Yuhuandan pill. Junior brother Ren, don't worry. No one will disturb you in the future. Zhang Xiaohua thanked him. Headmaster is very considerate. Chen Fengxiao looked at the rising sun and said, little brother, it's time for breakfast. Let's go, don't let anyone send you food. Eat with me. Deliver food? Zhang Xiaohua touched her nose and smiled bitterly. She had lived here for 2 days and had forgotten to eat. She had fasted for a long time and didn't want to eat. Bai Huan thought that Chen Fengxiao would arrange it for her, and Chen Fengxiao thought that Bai Huan would arrange it for her, so no one sent her food. Zhang Xiaohua followed Chen Fengxiao and Qiu Wei Cheng to the place where they were eating. It was an exquisite small hall. On a huge table, the 6 great arhats and the other managers of the cottage were already seated, quietly waiting for Headmaster Chen to come over. When they saw Zhang Xiaohua behind Chen Fengxiao, their eyes lit up and they stood up. Walking into the small hall, Chen Fengxiao and Qiu Wei Cheng sat down. Zhang Xiaohua bowed to everyone and also found a place to sit. Just as he sat down, Lu Quan, who was beside him, came over and said in a low voice, little brother, I was just about to look for you. But before the battle, if there was nothing urgent, I could not disturb you so. Xianxia was stunned and asked, Senior Lu, what's the matter? Lu Quan raised his head and looked around. He lowered his voice and said, Junior brother Ran, that. Can you give me a small bone-solidifying elixir? Oh yes, I will not take it for free. I will give you herbs to exchange for it. Then he smiled apologetically, I know this is not appropriate, but this small bone-solidifying elixir is useful to me. Since you were able to let the headmaster exchange herbs for elixirs yesterday, can you also give me some face? Zhang Xiaohua was happy, but his face was extremely awkward. He said, Senior Lu, you are putting me in a difficult position. This elixir can only be made by the offerings of the Dan department, and all of them have to be turned in. I only have one bottle of small bone-solidifying elixir in my hand now. If I use it up, I will have no more. Although the herbs are good, they are not elixirs after all. Difficult, haha difficult. Lu Quan frowned. Little brother, your martial arts are high. This small bone-solidifying elixir may not be of use to you. Moreover, if you can exchange it with the headmaster, why can't you exchange it with me? This is the first time senior brother has spoken. Won't you carefully and seriously consider it? Zhang Xiaohua was still secretly happy. He only asked, then senior brother can't exchange it with other elixirs? Elixirs? If I have elixirs, why would I exchange it with you? The elixirs of our grass department have already been lost to the Dan department, and the elixirs of the Dan department are all in the hands of the 10 great guardian deities. Where do you want me to get elixirs? Zhang Xiaohua understood and also said in a low voice. All right, since this is the first time senior brother Lu has spoken, I can't let him lose face. However, senior brother, you must listen carefully. You must not tell anyone about this, otherwise... Lu Quan interrupted him in a low voice. How can I not know about this? I won't tell anyone, don't worry. After saying that, he carefully looked to the side. The others who were accompanying Chen Fengxiao and chatting had already pricked up their ears. Although they spoke softly, Zhang Xiaohua didn't believe that they didn't hear it. Moreover, looking at Lu Quan's appearance, although he said that he wouldn't, who knew if he would turn around and tell anyone? Sure enough, after Zhang Xiaohua and the rest had finished their breakfast, just as they walked out of the small hall, Si Huinan pulled Zhang Xiaohua to one side sneakily. He also wanted to exchange herbs for elixirs, but what he wanted was the blood coagulation pill. Zhang Xiaohua sighed helplessly. Under Si Huinan's persuasion, she had no choice but to agree to his request. She used a 40-year-old blackwood fruit to exchange for a blood coagulation pill. This blackwood fruit was the other main ingredient in refining the bone coagulation pill. Naturally, Zhang Xiaohua repeatedly reminded Si Huinan to not tell anyone about her exchange of elixirs. As for whether Si Huinan would say it or not, that would depend on his character. Or rather, it would depend on Zhang Xiaohua's character. Zhang Xiaohua had already been to the gambling arena yesterday, so she didn't need anyone to lead the way. When she took her bag and arrived at the arena, there were already many disciples sitting there. It was actually 30% more than yesterday. Zhang Xiaohua was shocked. She walked to Qiu Wei Cheng's side and asked him. After hearing about the gambling match between the grass and pill divisions yesterday, as well as the fact that he, a popular disciple, would definitely be on stage today, many disciples who usually didn't pay much attention to the gambling match became interested and came here early in the morning to fight for a seat. Zhang Xiaohua was speechless. This person's curiosity was really strong. Not long later, Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu accompanied the 5 consecrators into the arena. Old consecrator Lei placed the sealed box on the table. The 2 of them took out their keys and unlocked the box before returning to their respective sides. Old consecrator Lei looked at the crowd and smiled. Yesterday, Chen Fengxiao from the grass division gave us a very big surprise. I just don't know if Wu Zhouxiu from the pill division can reverse yesterday's decline? Disciples of the grass division and pill division, please place your bets. However, when old consecrator Lei said this bet, he lacked confidence. Everyone knew that yesterday, in order to seize the initiative and obtain the real object of 50 taels of gold, not only did the Dan division take out the Jade Rejuvenation Pill, they even sent out the 4 absolute main forces, the Great Vajra, the Second Vajra, the Third Vajra, and the Fourth Vajra. Although they obtained 2 victories, their opponents were only the 5th Arhat and the 6th Arhat. Today, the Dan division only had the 8th Arhat and the 10th Arhat, but the Grass division still had the 2nd Arhat, the 3rd Arhat, and Zhang Xiaohua, this mysterious contestant whose martial arts level was unknown. The 3rd King Kong and 6th King Kong's martial arts were basically on par. They were slightly weaker than 5th King Kong. These two King Kong had a good chance of winning against the 5th King Kong. Since Zhang Xiaohua was able to beat 10th King Kong until his teeth fell out, his martial arts should be about the same as the 3rd King Kong. Therefore, the Pill division's future was worrying. However, Chen Fengxiao's arrangement had some flaws. This morning, he actually let Zhang Xiaohua fight 3 times. This was something that had never happened since the beginning of the gambling fights on Tianmu Peak. It should be the only chance for the Pill division to even things out. When the disciples below the arena heard the bets, they were also in a difficult position. The first round was most likely the mysterious Grass division disciple. If he met 5th King Kong and 6th King Kong, there was still a chance of winning. If he met 10th King Kong and 8th King Kong, not long after, the bets were placed. Old Consecrator Lei smiled and took out a brocade bag. He shouted, "The 6th round, the Grass division will fight Ran Xiaoyao." The morale of the Grass division disciples was greatly boosted. They all raised their arms and cheered. Zhang Xiaohua stood up and waved to the disciples behind him. He walked slowly into the arena. He didn't show off or say anything. He just stood there quietly. Old Consecrator Lei was also stunned. He thought to himself, "This brat can keep his composure." Then, he took out another brocade bag. When he opened the note inside, he couldn't help but reveal a strange smile. Then, he held back his laughter and shouted, "The 6th round, the Pill division will fight Xianxia." Not only was the Pill division surprised, but the Grass division also cried out. Why was Zhang Xiaohua famous? Wasn't it because he taught Xianxia a lesson? He knocked out Xianxia's teeth and even accepted the Pill division representative's compensation worth 50 taels of gold. Now that the two of them met, was it because they were enemies? Or was it because they were once bitten by a snake, twice shy? Everyone was excited. There were also many people who secretly complained. They had bet on the Pill division to win. When he heard his name being called, Xianxia stood up. Yesterday when he saw that Zhang Xiaohua did not appear in any of the matches, and that he had to appear in 3 matches, and he was the first match today, Xianxia knew that he would most likely meet Zhang Xiaohua. Thus, he was not surprised. He stood up confidently, picked up a Qi Mei staff from the ground, and entered the arena. Although swords and sabers weren't prohibited in Tianmu Peak's gambling matches, this was still a gambling match between Pill division disciples. It wasn't good to be injured. Therefore, everyone wisely didn't bring any weapons. Xianxia's weapon was the Qi Mei cudgel. It was suitable for him to use it now. Xianxia held the Qi Mei cudgel and made a stance. He called out, "Junior brother Ren, we meet again." Yes, I'm very honored to be able to experience senior brother Cheng's skills again. I've already experienced your punches and kicks. Today, I would like to ask junior brother Ren for advice on weapons. I hope junior brother will not be stingy. Xianxia squinted his eyes and said. Zhang Xiaohua shook his head. Then I'll have to disappoint senior brother Cheng. I don't know anything about weapons. It's better to fight barehanded. When the audience heard this, there was an uproar. Please vote for me. Chapter 551. Everyone had seen carelessness before, but none of the disciples of the Grass division and Pill division had ever seen such carelessness before. In the previous battles, there were times when the great guardian deity of the Pill division met the 6 Arhats of the Grass division, and there were times when he would be careless. However, he had never used his bare hands to fight against a weapon like this. Moreover, this was a battle with a stake of 50 taels of gold. Even the great guardian deity Zhou Shuming wouldn't dare to be so careless. When Xianxia heard this, a brilliant expression appeared on his face. Even though he had lost a few teeth after being beaten up by Zhang Xiaohua 2 nights ago, he was still one of the 10 great guardian deities. Cough cough. Even though he was at the bottom, he still had some unique skills, especially this staff technique. He had received guidance from an inner disciple in his early years, and had also devoted himself to practicing it for a period of time. Even Zhou Shuming of the Pill department would praise it endlessly when he saw it. It was one of Xiangshi's trump cards. When the name of the last battle was announced, His first reaction was that he would meet Zhang Xiaohua the next day. His second reaction was to seek revenge, and his third reaction was naturally to use the Qi Mei staff. That day, Cheng Shi had suffered a loss at the hands of Zhang Xiaohua. He had always felt that Zhang Xiaohua's hands and feet were only average. It was because he didn't take him seriously that Zhang Xiaohua's sneak attack succeeded. Of course, Cheng Shi also knew that his hands and feet were only average. Only with a staff would he have the confidence to get back the hatred from Zhang Xiaohua. Yes, and that 50 taels of gold. When he heard Zhang Xiaohua say that he wasn't good at using weapons, Cheng Shi felt as if he was dreaming. It was as if there were 50 taels of gold hanging above his head. He laughed and said, "Junior brother Ren, are you sure you don't want to use a weapon?" Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously, "Could it be that there is a rule in our Tianmu Peak that if you use a weapon, I must use a weapon? If that's the case, then I can only reluctantly find a weapon." Cheng Shi hurriedly waved his hands. "No, our Tianmu Peak's duels are quite humane. If you don't want to use it, others won't force you. However, junior brother Ren doesn't use a weapon, and I, as his senior brother, use a weapon instead. Wouldn't others say that I'm bullying him? Oh no, it should be bullying him? It's still not right." Seeing Cheng Shi so conflicted, Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "Then does senior apprentice brother Cheng not want to use weapons?" Cheng Shi tightened his grip on the Qi Mei staff and said nervously, "I did have such an idea, but since I'm going to fight with a strong opponent like junior brother Ren, I naturally have to use my most powerful move. Only then will I be worthy of you, junior brother Ren. Don't you think so? If I'm also empty-handed, I'll tell you later that I'm best at staff techniques. Even if you win, isn't it a little unfair?" These words were said very smoothly. Perhaps he had already thought of the wording last night. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and cupped her hands. "Then I thank senior apprentice brother Chang for valuing me. Can we start now? Look, old consecrated Lei has been impatient for a long time. Of course, you took a weapon and still dawdled to explain to the other party that you're empty-handed. It seemed like you had no choice. How could the others not frown when they saw this?" Cheng Shi smiled awkwardly and twirled his staff in the air. He shouted, "Since that's the case, junior brother Ren, pay attention. I'm going to make my move." After he finished speaking, he raised his leg and pounced over, striking his staff at Cheng Shi's head. "Sigh, senior apprentice brother Cheng, you've already taken advantage of the weapon, but you still won't let me make a few moves? You actually want to make the first move. Looking at your bearing, it's not something an expert should have." Zhang Xiaohua secretly criticized in her heart. Although she thought this, Zhang Xiaohua didn't want to test the results of her cultivation of the Big Dipper Divine Fist with the top of her head when she saw the Qi Mei staff smashing down with a whoosh. Therefore, she still released her divine sense. When the Qi Mei staff was about to finish its move, she dodged to the side and then grabbed with her hand, directly grabbing the head of the staff. When Cheng Shi saw this, he was secretly delighted. His hand shook and the staff flew out, striking towards Zhang Xiaohua's hand. Although the staff looked good, in the divine sense, it was flashy but not practical. Zhang Xiaohua slightly tilted her hand, grabbing the place where the Qi Mei staff was about to hit. But just as she was about to grab it, Zhang Xiaohua suddenly remembered what Chen Fengxiao said last night. She unconsciously smiled and said, "Loosening the reins only to grasp them better." Oh, or in other words, casting a long line to catch a big fish. Who doesn't know how to do that? Therefore, she clenched her hand and used her fist to hit the Qi Mei staff. She immediately retracted her hand with a painful expression on her face, as if she was really hit by the Qi Mei staff. She even sucked in a breath of cold air. That resemblance. Even Chen Fengxiao, who was watching the battle from the side, felt his heart tighten. He secretly said, "Oh no, this guy is too arrogant. He's going to suffer." Since even Chen Fengxiao was fooled, there was no need to say anything more about Cheng Shi. His heart was filled with joy. That staff of his danced with a whistling sound, sweeping horizontally towards Zhang Xiaohua's waist. Zhang Xiaohua retracted her hand into her sleeve. Like a sparrow hawk, she somersaulted and soared into the air. Once again, she evaded the attack. She stretched out her left fist and punched towards Cheng Shi's face. Cheng Shi's move did not stop. He quickly withdrew the Qi Mei staff and held it horizontally in front of his eyes. Zhang Xiaohua's left fist landed on the Qi Mei staff. If it was a normal day, Zhang Xiaohua's punch would have a force of 10,000 jin. Not to mention a wooden staff, even an iron staff would be smashed. Wouldn't Cheng Shi vomit blood and die? Since Zhang Xiaohua wanted to stab a pig's nose with scallions, of course she couldn't use her strength. She only knocked on the staff and immediately used the force to somersault backwards. After staggering a few steps, she steadied herself. Alarmed, she said, "Senior martial brother Cheng, how can your martial arts be this high? Little brother was quite lucky the day before yesterday." Cheng Shi's face lit up, as if 50 taels of gold were shining. He shouted, "Haha, now you know how powerful I am. Why haven't you admitted defeat yet?" Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand. "Don't. If I admit defeat now, I won't be able to see the elegant demeanor of your Dan Department's Jin gang. It's better to give little brother a chance. Let me admire you a bit more." This brat was still teasing others at this time. However, the ecstatic Cheng Shi might not be able to hear the word admire in his words. Just look at how he swung the staff in a sweeping away 1,000 army posture. He did not give Zhang Xiaohua a chance to catch her breath. Zhang Xiaohua was also helpless. She could only restrain her temper and fight with him. She had to praise Zhang Xiaohua. This brat's martial arts had reached an extremely high level. He was no longer limited to using the fixed fist of the North Star, but just according to Cheng Shi's moves, she casually came up with a stance to deal with him. Every move was derived from the fist of the North Star. Only some angles and the height of some arms were not the same. He consciously knew that these moves were derived from the 108 moves, or it could be said that there were a total of 216 moves. But in the eyes of others, different moves were constantly appearing. Moreover, Zhang Xiaohua's ethereal steps was slightly activated. Her whereabouts were erratic. Her fists and palms were also untraceable. Cheng Shi's Qi Mei cudgel danced like a dragon swinging its tail as it chased after Zhang Xiaohua, but it could not even touch the corner of Zhang Xiaohua's clothes. Some people whose martial arts were slightly higher, such as the 5 consecrators, Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu, seemed to have noticed something strange. Although they could not truly estimate Zhang Xiaohua's martial arts, but from Zhang Xiaohua's ordinary moves that could turn something rotten into something magical, they could already feel that Cheng Shi was definitely not her opponent. As for whether Zhang Xiaohua could win against the 8 Vajra and the others, they also did not know in their hearts. As the saying goes, those who are closely involved cannot see clearly. Now, it could not be more appropriate to describe Cheng Shi. Seeing Cheng Shi's cudgel strike after strike, he always felt that he could knock down or force Zhang Xiaohua out of the circle. But Zhang Xiaohua was always like Xiaohua in the wind. No matter how strong or weak the wind was, he would always sway in the same posture, big or small, but he did not stick to the ground. Even if the wind was blowing to the point that it was about to break, but when the wind was weak, he would immediately stand up straight. Thus, Cheng Shi became more and more attentive, and used more and more strength. He had long put aside his gradually disordered inner breath and gradually long breaths. Under his single-minded focus, he took the initiative to attack. Zhang Xiaohua's unbearable strength, as he fought and retreated at the same time, the two people's battle group gradually moved to the side, gradually moving towards the Grass Division disciples. And the sound of the Qi Mei cudgel swinging out made the Grass Division disciples tremble in fear even from afar. And when Qiu Wei Cheng, who was standing in front of the disciples, saw Zhang Xiaohua coming back, the corners of his mouth curled up. He pulled Chen Fengxiao's sleeve and pointed at his feet. Chen Fengxiao immediately understood. He turned around to look at the disciples, and waved his hand. The dozens of disciples in the front row also had a face of joy. They bent their waists and carefully retreated to the back. When the back row rose into the air, Chen Fengxiao and Qiu Wei Cheng brought the 6 great Luohan and moved back a lot, creating a large space in front of them. When the Pill Division disciples opposite them saw this, they all stuck out their middle fingers and gestured towards the Grass Division opposite them. Then they loudly cheered, hoping that Cheng Shi could hear them. Unfortunately, Cheng Shi had long taken the Pill Division disciples' reminders as encouragement. When he swung his cudgel at Zhang Xiaohua, he didn't even let them look towards the Pill Division. He swung his hair very confidently, and didn't even notice the problem of walking out of the arena. Nonsense, the Grass Division disciples were still some distance away. Moreover, wasn't Zhang Xiaohua in front of him? Even if he walked out of the arena, Zhang Xiaohua would be the one to do it first. What was he afraid of? Actually, even Chen Fengxiao and the rest were sweating. Zhang Xiaohua kept retreating, obviously wanting to drag Cheng Shi out of the arena. But there were no eyes behind him. How could he see the sidelines? If he accidentally crossed the line first, wouldn't that be self-defeating? At this time, even old consecrator Lei and the rest stood up and walked to the side of the table together, carefully anticipating the end of this battle. Zhang Xiaohua released her divine sense and had long seen the sidelines carefully. When she was almost there, she reached out and grabbed the Qimei cudgel. Cheng Shi was secretly delighted and swung his cudgel again. Zhang Xiaohua raised her hand and hit it. She pretended to be in pain, and her other hand immediately reached out and grabbed the Qimei cudgel with both hands. With a little force, Cheng Shi couldn't help but rush forward. Zhang Xiaohua let go, and her hand went through the roots. Without looking back, she kicked that guy's butt. She didn't use much strength, but it was enough to make Cheng Shi take a few more steps forward. Vote for me. Come and read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 552. Cheng Shi stood still and revealed a smile of success. He had used quite a bit of strength in that strike just now, and it had hit the back of Zhang Xiaohua's hand. Looking at his expression just now, he must have been seriously injured. Both of his hands were injured. Let's see how he's going to deal with it. Thinking of this, he turned around and brandished his staff to attack again. Unfortunately, Zhang Xiaohua just stood there motionlessly with her hands tucked behind her back. Cheng Shi was surprised. The staff was already in the air. Could it be that she wasn't afraid? At this moment, old consecrator Lei shouted, "Stop! Cheng Shi of the Pill Division has already left the sidelines. Ran Xiaoyao of the Grass Division wins." What? Cheng Shi was immediately dumbfounded. That was 50 taels of gold. He should have paid Zhang Xiaohua 50 taels of gold earlier, but Wu Zhouxiu had taken out a few bottles of pills and a Yuandan pill for him in order to cast a long line to catch a big fish. Originally, Wu Zhouxiu didn't plan to let him participate in this competition, but Wu Zhouxiu's calculations were not as good as God's plans. In the first round, he wasn't chosen. Thus, he wasn't sure which round he could truly catch Zhang Xiaohua in. Furthermore, the 10 great guardian deities unanimously objected to him competing with the people, so he gave up on participating. Of course, Cheng Shi's basic requirement for participating in the battle was that the pills worth 50 taels of gold must be taken out from his own pocket. The pill division wouldn't bear half a pill. Thinking that he had to take out a pill worth 50 taels of gold, and also didn't know why he lost the battle. This was clearly still far from the sidelines. Thus, Cheng Shi couldn't help but be distracted. The Qimei cudgel in his hand didn't stop because of old consecrator Lei's shout, and directly smashed towards Zhang Xiaohua's face. Zhang Xiaohua stood with her hands crossed and looked at him quietly. Seeing that he didn't stop and that the strength of the cudgel was still sufficient, she couldn't help but frown slightly. At this moment, if she kicked it away or grabbed it with her hands, it would be effortless. But if she did so, her previous act would be wasted. Thus, Zhang Xiaohua exerted force on her feet and retreated a few steps. She accidentally tripped over her right foot and fell to the ground. Cheng Shi's Qimei cudgel also smashed onto the ground, injuring a patch of flowers and grass. Cheng Shi pitifully looked at Wu Zhouxiu, who had a look of disappointment on his face, as well as the many Pill Division disciples who had looks of pity on their faces. He felt as if he had been wronged. Just as he was about to ask what was going on, he saw Wu Zhouxiu point at his feet, indicating for him to look carefully. Thus, Cheng Shi shut his mouth and looked left and right carefully. It didn't matter if he looked closely, but his lungs were about to explode from anger. Not far in front of him was a thin line. Wasn't that the sidelines of the battle arena? And the Grass Division disciples who were supposed to be sitting beside the thin line were now sitting far behind him. Their faces were solemn and extremely upright, but their eyes couldn't help but reveal a mocking smile. "This you." Cheng Shi looked at his feet and pointed at Zhang Xiaohua. He really didn't know what to say. Zhang Xiaohua clasped his hands and said, "Senior brother Cheng's martial arts are really powerful. This Qimei staff technique is abnormally wondrous. I really am not a match for it, so I had to resort to trickery. I hope senior brother Cheng can understand." "Right, what is the name of this staff technique?" I have never seen it before. Furthermore, senior brother Cheng's strength is boundless. When you use the staff technique, it is as if the Vajra of the 9 heavens has descended to the mortal world. It makes me feel as if I can't resist it. Zhang Xiaohua spoke as he walked. Cheng Shi was elated. See, it's not that my martial arts are not good enough. People make mistakes. Horses stumble too. It's just that this fellow's evil plan succeeded this time. I'll deal with him next time. Cheng Shi's face was that of a senior brother. Junior brother Ren. A battle depends on real ability. You can survive for a while with petty tricks, but you can't survive for a lifetime. If you want to establish yourself on Tianmu Peak, you can't always be like this. You can't always be like this. Zhang Xiaohua bowed. I understand. Cheng Shi took the opportunity to ask in a low voice. Then, is the wager for the battle? Zhang Xiaohua said seriously. Senior brother Cheng, weren't you just lecturing me not to be sneaky? Since that's the case, we can't break the rules of the battle. As for the wager, I'll keep it for you. When you challenge me next time, I'll give it back to you. How about that? Won't senior brother Cheng have a clear conscience if you use your own ability to win it back? When Cheng Shi heard that, he wished he could slap his own mouth. But thinking that he would be able to win it back next time, he could accept it in his heart. He pointed at Zhang Xiaohua and said, You said it yourself. In a few days, I'll name you and challenge you. You must accept the challenge. Zhang Xiaohua's heart was already blooming with joy. But he still panicked and said, All right, senior brother Cheng, don't worry. I'll definitely use my true ability. But you must show mercy. Cheng Shi snorted and waved his hand. He walked down, as if the winner of this battle was him. Zhang Xiaohua smiled as he watched Cheng Shi leave the arena. He walked towards the Grass Division disciples. At this time, Chen Fengxiao and Qiu Wei Cheng had already returned to their original seats. They heard the conversation clearly. Chen Fengxiao and Qiu Wei Cheng both smiled and secretly gave Zhang Xiaohua a thumbs up. They thought, this guy is really AI. I don't know if he's smart or cunning. He just won this battle and won the wager for this battle. Now he's eyeing the wager for the next battle. Not to mention that the two of them were resting. Old Consecrator Lei opened the box again. For the 7th battle, the Grass Division had drawn another good lot. It was the 2nd Arhat Heir Du Mu against the 6th Guardian Deity Jianghu. According to the records, the martial arts of the Grass Division's Arhats were generally lower than that of the Dan Division's Arhats. But the Arhats who were ranked at the top were able to take on the Arhats ranked at the bottom. This Heir Du Mu against Jianghu was more likely to win than lose. When they were drinking last night, Pill Division's Wu Dalong had asked Grass Division's headmaster Chen several times about the order of today's battle formation. However, Chen Fengxiao had gritted his teeth and refused to say anything. When Wu Zhou heard about the two people who would be fighting, he almost felt indignant that the heavens were unfair. If you say that they were unlucky, then they were unlucky, but they shouldn't be so unlucky. Moreover, the stakes were unprecedentedly high. Vomit blood. Vomit blood. Wu Zhou only had this premonition. The gambling fight between Heir Du Mu and Jianghu was the same as the previous few fights. It was extremely boring. Both of them were familiar with each other. Their martial arts moves, the habits of their moves, and the degree of their internal energy were explained clearly. It was just that in order to fight over this medicinal pill that was worth 50 taels of gold, both of them took out their trump card. After fighting for nearly the time it took for 3 incense sticks to burn, the winner was finally decided. Indeed, as everyone expected, Heir Du Mu obtained the final victory. At this point, not only was Heir Du Mu overjoyed because he obtained the wager of 50 taels of gold, even Chen Fengxiao, Qiu Wei Cheng and the other Grass Division disciples were overjoyed. Because, after the 7th battle, the Grass Division had already obtained 5 victories, while the Dan Division only had 2. The Grass Division definitely didn't need to take out a large portion of their already meager stock of pills to lose to the Dan Division. In 3 battles, if they could win 1 battle, they could obtain 20% of the 500 taels of gold. If they could win all of the battles, wouldn't that be 60%? That was a pill worth 300 taels of gold. Thinking about this, Chen Fengxiao had the urge to pinch his own thigh. On the other hand, Wu Zhou's mouth was full of bitterness. The Dan Division still had 5, 7 and 8 warriors who hadn't fought yet. The grass division had 3 Arhats and Zhang Xiaohua who hadn't fought yet. Seeing how Zhang Xiaohua had defeated Cheng Shi, the 7 and 8 warriors were most likely not her opponent. In other words, the 5 Arhats could only win 1 battle. The remaining 2 battles would be lost if there were no accidents. Calculating, the grass division would probably lose 200 taels of gold worth of pills. Bitter, it was even more bitter than Coptis gold thread. The 8th battle officially began with old consecrator Lei's loud voice. However, Wu Zhoushu's attention was no longer on the battle. Because in this battle, he had arranged for the 8-warrior Yu Yi to fight. He was most likely not a match for Zhang Xiaohua. But when he heard the name of the grass division's 3rd Arhat, Qian Zibi, hope rose from the bottom of his heart. Of course, Yu Yi wasn't a match for Qian Zibi. This was for sure. Yu Yi's martial arts were a level lower than Qian Zibi's. Even in his previous battle records, he had been completely defeated. But the remaining 2 battles were different. Firstly, Zhang Xiaohua had to fight 2 battles in a row. Her physical strength might not be enough. Secondly, Wu Zhoushu was clear in his heart that he had sent out the 5th warrior Yi Chengliao for the 9th battle. He should be able to take down Zhang Xiaohua for sure. And after Zhang Xiaohua had fought with Yi Chengliao, she directly entered the 10th battle. Although it was the 7-warrior Qi Yuntian, Zhang Xiaohua was already exhausted. She might not necessarily lose. If it was calculated like this, the Dan division would only lose 1 battle. The 20% stake was 100 taels of gold. And it was also acceptable. He could just treat it as if he had worked hard for the past few years for nothing and returned all the pills he had won from the grass division. As expected, the 8th battle ended very quickly. If it was before, Qian Zibi might have allowed Yu Yi to make 2 moves. The 2 of them could be friends for a while and let the surrounding disciples enjoy themselves. But today, it involved 50 taels of gold. Qian Zibi was afraid that he would fail miserably. After just 10 rounds, he showed a flaw. He grabbed Yu Yi's acupoint and threw him to the ground. Seeing this, Chen Fengxiao grabbed his sleeve and said softly, "Little brother, our grass division has already won a match. We've obtained 100 taels of gold. It's already made up for all the pills we've lost to the pill division over the past few years. You don't have to feel burdened. You've already won a match, so if you lose another match, we'll call it even. If you lose 2 more matches, just give all the pills you've lost to the pill division. Of course, our grass division can also take out these pills on your behalf. Little brother, you don't have to worry." Afterwards, Chen Fengxiao looked at Wu Zhoushu opposite him. He wanted to say something but hesitated. He said softly, "Also if we win too much, the Dan division's Wu Dalong." When Zhang Xiaohua heard this, she smiled and said, "Boss arranged my last 2 battles together. I already understand what's going on. Don't worry." Chapter 553. In fact, Zhang Xiaohua had already thought it through. If Chen Fengxiao wanted her to win 3 rounds, then today's battle order would definitely be the 1st, 3rd, and 5th round. In the middle of the 2 rounds, she would be able to rest a bit, adjust her zhenqi, and recover her strength. But Chen Fengxiao arranged for her to fight the 4th and 5th round together, which meant that he didn't plan on letting her win the last round. As for why Chen Fengxiao had such a plan, Zhang Xiaohua somewhat understood, but also somewhat didn't. However, right now, she was already standing in the arena, so she didn't have much time to think about this problem. In front of Zhang Xiaohua stood the Pill Division's 5th guardian deity, Yi Chengliao. The term guardian deity gave people the impression that it was a person with big shoulders and a round waist, with an appearance of infinite strength. However, Zhang Xiaohua had seen all of the 10 guardian deities, and only a few people could bear this title. For example, Cheng Shi, who was completely blasphemous to be called a guardian deity. Yi Chengliao was the one who was most worthy of this title among the 10 guardian deities. Standing in front of Zhang Xiaohua, he was almost a head taller than Zhang Xiaohua, and the muscles on his body bulged one by one. Just casually walking around the arena would make the ground tremble a bit. Seeing him, Zhang Xiaohua almost had the feeling of seeing a misty school's stone cow. When old consecrator Lei gave the order, Zhang Xiaohua bowed. "Grass Division's Ren Xiaoyao, please advise me, senior brother Yi." Seeing this, Yi Chengliao took 2 steps back for no reason. He looked at Ren Baqian suspiciously. Seeing that there was nothing unusual, he cupped his hands and said in a low and muffled voice, "Well said, junior brother Ren, let's begin." Zhang Xiaohua frowned and said, "Senior brother Yi, why did you retreat just now? This little brother hasn't attacked yet." "Hee, Dalong said that you're full of tricks, so I have to guard against you. In the previous round, I didn't see you give any gifts. This time, you suddenly did this to me, so of course I have to guard against you." OMG, Zhang Xiaohua thought to herself, my character isn't that bad, is it? Then he explained, Senior Martial Brother Yi is right. However, a few days ago, Senior Martial Brother Cheng provoked me and I didn't want to see him. This is our first time fighting, so of course I have to be polite before resorting to force. Yi Chengliao waved his hand and said, "Don't talk about etiquette and weapons, hurry up and fight, you just have to hand over the 50 taels of gold leaf to me." After saying that, he shouted, "Junior Brother Ren, since you're not using a weapon, then this Yi will also fight you empty-handed. Be careful." After saying that, he waved his long arm, and that bowl-sized fist smashed towards Zhang Xiaohua's chest. Before the fist reached her body, the wind of the fist arrived first. Looking at the power of the fist, it was no less than Cheng Shi's Qi Mei cudgel. Zhang Xiaohua was the least afraid of fighting empty-handed, especially when it came to external martial arts. Therefore, she also took a step forward. Taking advantage of the fact that Yi Chengliao's arm had not straightened, and his whole body's strength had not reached 100%, she immediately clenched her right hand into a fist. With a "hoo" sound, she stepped forward and only used 40% of her strength. Seeing this, Yi Chengliao was overjoyed. He practiced external martial arts, and when he fought with other grass sect opponents, there were very few people who would fight him head-on. Now that Zhang Xiaohua came up and fought with him, how could he be happy? However, looking at Zhang Xiaohua's frail body, Yi Chengliao could only use 80% of his strength, so he quickly withdrew 20%. With a pang sound, the two people's fists collided. Yi Chengliao only felt his arm go slightly numb, and a huge force hit him. He couldn't help but tang back a few steps before he could steady himself. On the opposite side, Zhang Xiaohua was even worse. She retreated more than 10 steps before she managed to not fall. The two people steadied themselves and looked at each other, not easily taking a step forward. After a while, Zhang Xiaohua quickly ran in front of Yi Chengliao, jumped up, raised her left leg, and kicked towards Yi Chengliao's armpit. Although Yi Chengliao was surprised by the huge force just now, seeing Zhang Xiaohua's sorry state, he was slightly relieved. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's kick coming over, he raised his arm and used it to block. Zhang Xiaohua's left leg kicked Yi Chengliao's arm, but she didn't use too much strength. Instead, she put her leg on Yi Chengliao's arm, twisted her waist, and her right leg immediately kicked over like lightning. Yi Chengliao didn't dare to be negligent. He raised his left hand and grabbed Zhang Xiaohua's right ankle. Zhang Xiaohua wouldn't let him have his way. Her right leg deftly changed direction in the air and kicked from another angle. Yi Chengliao also had a card up his sleeve. He pushed his left arm and blocked with his left fist, so the two people started fighting. Yi Chengliao was ranked 5th in the top 10 King Kong. His kung fu wasn't weak. In addition, Zhang Xiaohua deliberately showed weakness, so the two people's punches and kicks were very exciting. However, no matter how big of an advantage Yi Chengliao had, even if he sent Zhang Xiaohua flying, knowing that he could chase after Zhang Xiaohua and defeat her, Yi Chengliao still guarded the surrounding few feet and didn't move forward. After a few times, Zhang Xiaohua understood in her heart that she had lured Yi Chengliao into a trap. This guy must have received Wu Dalong's orders. No matter how much she pretended, he wouldn't chase after her and let her kick him out of the line. Since it was like this, Zhang Xiaohua was a little worried. If it was to say that defeating this Yi Chengliao wasn't a difficult thing, but if she could defeat him very accidentally and make him unable to see through her true martial arts, then it would be a very troublesome thing. However, if she wanted to lose to Yi Chengliao and give away the 50 taels of gold pill, then it would be better to directly defeat Yi Chengliao. The two people exchanged punches and kicks for the time it took to eat a meal. Even when the sun was already high up in the sky, Yi Chengliao still stood in the distance and didn't move much. Naturally, no one could see who won or lost. But even so, the surrounding disciples were dumbfounded by what they saw. Last time when Zhang Xiaohua defeated Cheng Shi, to be honest, it was a bit of an unfair victory. She only relied on tricks and didn't have any real ability. Therefore, everyone was like Chen Fengxiao's prediction. They lowered their attention on Zhang Xiaohua again and again, thinking that there was nothing special about Zhang Xiaohua's martial arts. There were even some disciples who didn't know their place and had thoughts that they shouldn't have in their minds. Of course, there were even more disciples who placed their bets on the Dan division. They originally thought that the Dan division's 5 taels of gold would easily end the bet. But after fighting for almost half a day, it was actually a situation of neither winning nor losing. This frail grass division youth actually didn't fall behind by half a point. Yi Jingang is simple and honest. Maybe he didn't kill him and gave Ren Xiaoyao some face? Maybe Yi Jingang wants to exhaust Ren Xiaoyao's strength. When he runs out of strength, then wouldn't he be casually thrown out of the line? The people outside the line kept guessing. But just when everyone was guessing when Yi Chengliao would exert his strength and defeat Zhang Xiaohua, the situation on the field changed again. They saw Zhang Xiaohua once again leaping high into the air, her legs interlocking with Yi Chengliao's face. Yi Chengliao seemed to have already seen through Zhang Xiaohua's moves and wasn't nervous at all. He clenched his fists and punched out continuously, turning all of Zhang Xiaohua's attacks into nothingness. And when Zhang Xiaohua landed on the ground, it was as if she had stepped on something. Zhang Xiaohua's body was like an arrow leaving the bowstring, pouncing towards Yi Chengliao. And because Zhang Xiaohua didn't have a good grasp of her balance, her 2 hands were randomly grabbing at the air. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua baring her fangs and brandishing her claws, Yi Chengliao was stunned. Just when he was about to dodge, Zhang Xiaohua's 2 arms were already in front of him, grabbing at the place where his 2 arms were. Yi Chengliao didn't dare to be slow, afraid that Zhang Xiaohua had a trick up her sleeves. He also raised his arms to block Zhang Xiaohua. In a flash, 4 arms crossed together. Zhang Xiaohua very casually pushed Yi Chengliao's arms to the left and right, as if she was just randomly bumping into something. Could it be that this junior brother Ren really fell down? At this time, Yi Chengliao naturally thought. Unfortunately, this was the only thought Yi Chengliao had before he woke up. He saw Zhang Xiaohua push Yi Chengliao's 2 arms apart, and her entire body was already in Yi Chengliao's embrace. Her head that was flying in front, before Yi Chengliao could react, hit his chest's Shanzhong point. Yi Chengliao couldn't catch his breath, and fainted on the spot. And the initiator of this, Zhang Xiaohua, seemed to be dazed from the impact. Like Yi Chengliao, she fainted and fell straight to the ground. In an instant, the entire place was dead silent. Even the sound of breathing stopped. Everyone stared at the scene with their mouths agape. Then they looked at each other, not knowing what had happened. It wouldn't be right if they didn't know what had happened. They probably didn't know why such a coincidental thing had happened. In the past 10 years of Tianmu Peak, such an incident had never happened before. Then with a wang sound, thousands of flies rushed over at the same time. All the disciples were whispering to each other and discussing. The 5 consecrators, Pill Department's Wu Zhou, the 9 Vajras, Chen Fengxiao, Qiu Wei Chang, and the 6 arhats all stood up with a zang sound. They all looked at the scene with complicated expressions. Knocking out the opponent was naturally the winner. But when 2 people fainted at the same time, who was the winner and who was the loser? This was really hard to say. When the rules were set, they never thought that such a situation would happen. Even after a few revisions, there were no new rules. However, they didn't dare to casually enter the arena. Disciples who weren't part of the battle were prohibited from entering the arena. If they entered the arena, they would be judged as the loser. And this battle involved 50 taels of gold, so no one dared to enter the arena. Therefore, just like this, after the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Wu Zhou was the first to become impatient. He walked towards Consecrator Lei. In his opinion, since both of them had fainted together, it would be a draw. Anyway, Zhang Xiaohua was already injured. Although it was the 7 Vajras who entered the arena, Qi Yuntian should be able to take down Zhang Xiaohua. In this way, their pill department would only lose 20% of 100 taels of gold. But just as he took a step, he heard an earth-shattering cry from the grass department. When he looked up, he saw Zhang Xiaohua, who was lying there motionless, sitting up from the ground. She rubbed her head and looked at everything around her in confusion. Please vote for me, recommend me. Chapter 554. Zhang Xiaohua sat up from the ground, very puzzled as he looked around, then rubbed his head, as if it hurts. Then he stood up, looked into the distance and did something that no one on Tianmu Peak would have imagined. This guy walked to the side of Yi Chengliao who fainted on the ground, lifted one of his legs from the ground, and like pulling a dead pig, dragged him to the side of the field. In an instant, the whole field returned to dead silence. Then, when everyone understood what Zhang Xiaohua meant, a burst of laughter resounded. The people of the grass division all laughed, constantly applauding. It seems that this guy also doesn't know whether he lost or won. Therefore, for the sake of insurance, it's better to drag him to the side of the line and see what the 5 judges decide. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua dragging Yi Chengliao out while panting, Wu Zhoushu sighed and stopped in his tracks. Originally, the two of them had fainted at the same time. After all, there was no such rule in the current rules, and there was no such precedent before. He went to the 5 consecrators, and for the sake of 100 taels of gold, he did not care about his face. It was also appropriate to make a draw. But he didn't expect that Zhang Xiaohua would wake up first. Oh, of course, even if he woke up, he might be able to make it a draw. However, he, like all the other disciples, did not expect that Zhang Xiaohua would do such a thing. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's tired appearance, Wu Zhoushu's heart was bleeding. Fine, why do I have to go to the elders? It doesn't matter who fainted first, as long as they leave the side of the line, they lose. This guy doesn't know other things, but he remembers this rule very clearly. Sigh, how is this dragging a dead pig? It's simply dragging gold hoe. The disciples of the pill division opposite the grass division could not stand it, and also shouted loudly. What's the reason? Isn't it just to wake up the fainted Yi Chengliao? Unfortunately, Zhang Xiaohua sealed his acupoints. How can he wake up by himself? It seemed extremely impossible. Zhang Xiaohua pretended to be exhausted. She took a few steps to rest, and then took a few more steps to rest again. She thought to herself, this way, I can finally act like it. I, Xianxia, am also a wise and powerful man. How can I? Ahem, for 50 taels of gold, I can do some acting for others. It's possible. Seeing that they were getting closer and closer to the sidelines, Chen Fengxiao, who didn't know whether to laugh or cry, actually still had some confidence that Zhang Xiaohua could defeat Yi Chengliao. But he also never thought that Zhang Xiaohua would end up like this. Looking at Yi Chengliao behind Zhang Xiaohua with his eyes tightly closed, Chen Fengxiao couldn't help but think, if Yi Chengliao, known as one of the 5 guardian deities, woke up now, how would he resist? He wondered how junior brother Ren would deal with it. We're already at the border. If Yi Chengliao wakes up and sees himself outside the border, how will he react? No matter how Chen Fengxiao thought, he immediately saw Yi Chengliao's expression. Zhang Xiaohua had already dragged Yi Chengliao to the side of the border. She put down Yi Chengliao's legs, walked to the other side of Yi Chengliao's body, and used her strength to flip him over bit by bit. After a few more rolls, Yi Chengliao's body just happened to cross the border. And at the same time that Zhang Xiaohua flipped him over, a wave of Zhan Qi was sent over, unsealing Yi Chengliao's sealed acupoints. Then, as if nothing had happened, she clapped her hands and turned back to the field. Old consecrator Lei and the other 4 judges also smiled bitterly as they watched Zhang Xiaohua like a hard-working ant, slowly pushing Yi Chengliao out of the field. When Yi Chengliao's body was out of the border, they immediately shouted at the top of their lungs, Tianmu Peak's 9th battle, Grass Division's Ren Xiaoyao wins. Just as this voice landed, Yi Chengliao, who was outside the border, also opened his eyes. Similarly, he looked around in confusion. When he heard old consecrator Lei's announcement, his expression changed greatly. He hurriedly looked at the ground, and an expression of shock appeared on his face. His mouth was wide open, and he used his finger to point at Zhang Xiaohua who had just walked far away. You this! Then he saw a long trail of dragging on the field. Thus he didn't say anything else, and just stood there dumbly. After a while, Yi Chengliao slapped his head hard, and said regretfully, Why didn't I wake up a little earlier? If I woke up a little earlier, it would be enough to kick this guy out of the border. Sigh. That's right. Why did he wake up early? Wu Zhoushu thought so, and so did everyone in the Dan division. At this time, old consecrator Lei shouted again, Tianmu Peak's 10th battle is now ready to begin. Due to the fact that Grass Division's Ren Xiaoyao has gone up consecutively, according to the rules, the last disciple of the Dan division to go up is Qi Yuntian. Therefore, the 2 divisions' disciples, Please place your bets now. Zhang Xiaohua stood in the field, and when she heard Consecrator Lei asking her to rest, she secretly shrugged and laughed secretly. Is there a need? I don't think it's necessary, but since the rules of the battle are so humane, then I should rest for a while. Zhang Xiaohua walked back to the grass division. From afar, Chen Fengxiao and Qiu Wei Cheng gave her a thumbs up. Chen Fengxiao laughed and said, "Little brother, I don't know how to praise you, it's really." Qiu Wei Cheng, who was beside him, laughed. "It's really wise and your luck is through the roof." Zhang Xiaohua shrugged again and said, "It's not wise but my luck is through the roof." She then turned to look at the field and said, "I don't know who is so inconsiderate and doesn't care about our Tianmu Peak's environment. He actually threw peels and confetti at such an important place. Hee hee, but if it wasn't for these peels, I wouldn't have been able to beat the 5th-ranked King Kong so easily." Beat the field? Chen Fengxiao couldn't help but laugh and said, "You dragged the field, okay?" Indeed, but this Yi Ching Liao is really too heavy. Heavier than half a piece of pork. Dragging him down is really difficult. Oh, little brother has dragged pork before? That's right, little brother's family is poor, and I have a relative who sells pork. When little brother was young, little brother worked for that relative. This business of dragging pork is very common. Ha ha ha, no wonder little brother's posture is so familiar. It's because you've already practiced before. Zhang Xiaohua only had one relative, Butcher Lu, who sold meat. However, he had never met Zhang Xiaohua, and he had worked at Butcher Lu's house for a day. Who the hell knew who this relative of his was? While chatting, Zhang Xiaohua inadvertently glanced at the pill division opposite him. It was abnormally lively there. When he took a closer look, he realized that they were all calling for disciples to place their bets. When he looked behind him, the grass division disciples also had strange expressions on their faces. They were peeking at him while secretly calling for bets. It was as if they were doing something that was condemned by their conscience. Could it be? Zhang Xiaohua seemed to understand. She pulled on Chen Fengxiao's sleeve and whispered, "Headmaster Chen, can I place my own bets?" "You're placing your own bets?" Chen Fengxiao frowned and naturally looked back. Those disciples who were placing their bets immediately retracted their hands and looked around in all seriousness, as if the matter of placing their bets had nothing to do with them. Chen Fengxiao obviously knew what they were thinking. He turned back and smiled. "Little brother, are you itching to place your bets after seeing others place their bets? Or did you see something wrong with our grass division disciples?" Zhang Xiaohua smiled. "The pill division disciples are very enthusiastic, but our disciples are all sneaky. Of course I know they're betting on the pill division." Chen Fengxiao nodded and smiled. "That's right. Our bet is fair. The pill division and grass division are all disciples of the pill expanding hall. It's their freedom to place their bets. You don't have to take it to heart." "Why would I blame them?" Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously. "I'm just asking if I can bet on this fight." "This." Chen Fengxiao thought for a while and said, "In order to maintain fairness and prevent disciples from cheating, the rules of Tianmu Peak prohibit disciples from placing bets, but what?" Zhang Xiaohua saw Chen Fengxiao's hesitation and could not help asking. "However, since little brother wants to participate, I'll place a bet on little brother's behalf. However, little brother, there are many people who bet on you losing this round. Even if you bet on yourself losing, the amount of pills you'll get in the end will be extremely small." Zhang Xiaohua waved her hands. "When did I say I'd bet on myself losing?" "What?" Chen Fengxiao was stunned. "You want to bet on yourself winning?" Then he persuaded, "Little brother, this is not the time to be swayed by emotions. Even if you want to regain your face, you don't have to go against all the disciples of Tianmu Peak. And, oh, I forgot. You've won enough today. Giving some to everyone can be considered a good deed. All right, little brother, I'll place a bet for you. If you lose, it's on me. If you win, it's on you. What do you think?" "Don't? Headchin, if that's the case, what kind of bet is this?" "It's your good deed. Win or lose, it's all on me." All right, I'll listen to you." Chen Fengxiao smiled. "Then how many bottles of pills should I place? Or a few dozen taels of gold?" Zhang Xiaohua smiled and stretched out one finger. "1 bottle? 10 taels of gold?" Chen Fengxiao guessed. Zhang Xiaohua shook her head. Don't. Won't that be too much? The next, blood-replenishing pill. Ah? Chen Fengxiao almost fell over. He couldn't believe it and asked, just one blood-replenishing pill? Yes. Anyway, they're all betting on the pill department to win. I'm only using one blood-replenishing pill. If I win, won't all their bets be mine? And if I lose, this blood-replenishing pill will be theirs to divide among themselves. This isn't too good. Chen Fengxiao was speechless. He thought to himself, you've won so much gold. Even if you lose, it's still a huge profit. I thought you wanted to show your grace to the disciples. But I didn't expect you to be so opportunistic. Chen Fengxiao only said, one pill can also be placed as a bet. But this doesn't seem to match little brother's status. Just based on the fact that little brother defeated Wu Yigong, you'll be a famous person in Tianmu Peak in the future. So it's like this. Zhang Xiaohua nodded thoughtfully. She gritted her teeth and said, Then let's place a bet of 2 blood-replenishing pills. Chapter 555. In an instant, Chen Fengxiao, the #1 figure of Tianmu Peak, almost fainted. I have already told you clearly that these few pills are not worthy of your status. You still clenched your teeth. I thought you would take out at least 10 taels of gold. In the end, sigh, forget it, just pretend that I don't know you. But betting on those few pills did not seem like something a headmaster like him could do. Hence, he raised his head to look. Of course, Qiu Wei-cheng, who had just come over to talk to Zhang Xiaohua, was also looking around like the other disciples of the grass division. He looked like he did not know anything and did not want to disturb him. Chen Fengxiao called out with a smile, Junior Qiu, Junior Qiu? Qiu Wei-cheng seemed to have just woken up from a dream. With a helpless expression, he turned around and asked, Headmaster Chen, what's the matter? Junior brother Qiu, don't play dumb. Go, in your name, according to little brother's wishes. Bet 2 blood-replenishing pills on little brother's victory. Headmaster Chen, this isn't appropriate. No matter what, I'm still your right-hand man. If you use such a wager, not only will you lose face for me, but you will also lose face for the headmaster. Chen Fengxiao waved his hand and said, I don't care. I will leave this matter to you. Do as you see fit. Then, he pointed at Zhang Xiaohua and said, Our grass division brothers have sacrificed their lives for us. We cannot let him have any worries. You must settle this matter properly. Don't you think so? Little brother. Zhang Xiaohua laughed and said to Qiu Wei-cheng, Sorry to trouble you, Senior Qiu. Little brother's family background is weak. I don't dare to mess around, hee. Qiu Wei-cheng's face was full of helplessness. Just as he was about to call the disciples to place their bets, his eyes suddenly lit up and he walked towards the side of the crowd. Of course, there was an excited Bai Huan sitting there. She was holding something in her hand and looked like she was about to place her bet. Seeing Qiu Wei-cheng walk over, Bai Huan quickly stood up to greet him. Qiu Wei-cheng whispered into Bai Huan's ear. Bai Huan looked unhappy and pulled Qiu Wei-cheng back. She pointed at the elixirs in her hand and then at the pill department. She looked a little ashamed. At this moment, Qiu Wei-cheng's face was full of righteousness. He pointed at Bai Huan's nose and scolded her, as if he expected better from her. Bai Huan's face was full of shame. She had no choice but to stretch out her hand. Seeing Bai Huan stretch out her hand, Qiu Wei-cheng was obviously stunned. He looked at Zhang Xiaohua who was preparing in the distance. After thinking for a while, he took out a jade bottle from his arms, poured out 2 elixirs and handed them to Bai Huan. He then turned around and walked back to Chen Fengxiao's side. When Chen Feng saw Qiu Wei-cheng return, he pretended not to see him. Zhang Xiaohua, on the other hand, was curious and asked softly, Senior Bai doesn't look too happy. Could it be that he's worried about his own reputation? Qiu Wei-cheng thought to himself, You know that your reputation is not good. Why did you ask us to help you place such a small bet? However, he still smiled warmly and said, Junior brother Ren, don't think too much. Junior Bai doesn't care about his reputation. It's just that. Looking at Zhang Xiaohua, he coughed twice and said, It's just that he placed his bet on Qi Yuntian of the pill department. According to the rules, One person cannot bet on two parties at the same time. Therefore, he probably wants others to bet on him. Zhang Xiaohua was very puzzled. Senior Qiu, I heard that there is something I don't understand. Since everyone placed their bets on Qi Yuntian of the pill department and no one placed their bets on me, how will they gain anything? Won't this bet be for nothing? Well, even though they will definitely win this bet, the most important thing is to participate. It's not bad to win once. Furthermore, in our gambling fight rules, to encourage betting, we will record the number of wins. If the number of wins increases, there will be a certain amount of preferential treatment. There are many specific details. In the future, Brother Ren will naturally know about it. So that's how it is. No wonder Senior Brother Qiu didn't bet on me, Zhang Xiaohua muttered thoughtfully. Hearing this, Qiu Wei Cheng's face immediately turned red. Zhang Xiaohua seemed to feel that what she said was wrong and quickly apologized. Senior Qiu, don't think too much. If you only bet on me, who will definitely lose, I would find it strange. Just now, I just said it casually. I didn't mean to blame you at all. If Senior Qiu goes up next time, I won't bet on you. Gosh, Qiu Wei Cheng's face turned even redder. He thought to himself, anyway, I won't have the chance to go up. Aren't your words useless? Furthermore, I haven't even gone up and you're already cursing me to lose. Are you doing this on purpose? However, he said, long live understanding, long live understanding. At this moment, old consecrator Lei shouted from afar, the auspicious time has arrived. New, cough cough, grass division Ren Xiaoyao, pill division Qi Yuntian, please enter. Seeing the two of them walk slowly into the arena, old consecrator Lei then sat down and drank a mouthful of tea. He thought to himself, these days are not as good as when I was young as the master of ceremonies. How I miss the past. Those beautiful times. Leaving aside old consecrator Lei's nostalgia, Zhang Xiaohua and Qi Yuntian walked into the arena together. Zhang Xiaohua stopped and looked at Qi Yuntian. Qi Yuntian didn't stop, but walked a dozen steps and stopped. Then, he lowered his head and looked around. He even bent down to pick up some leaves and trash on the ground and threw them far away. Then, he turned around to face Zhang Xiaohua. Looking at this middle-aged man who was as tall and thin as her, Zhang Xiaohua didn't understand. She could only follow her right hand and walk a dozen steps. She cupped her hands and said, I am Ren Xiaoyao from the Grass Division. Greetings to Senior Qiu from the Pill Division. Qi Yuntian's face was full of vigilance. He cupped his hands and said, Junior Brother Ren, you have great skills and a good plan. As your senior brother, I really admire you. Zhang Xiaohua looked at the place where they were just now. There didn't seem to be any scraps of fruit paper. She asked, why didn't Senior Brother Qi stand there just now? Qi Yuntian looked around and said in a low voice, Junior Brother Ren is thinking too much. This is the center of the arena. If I stood there, wouldn't I be disrespecting the battle with Junior Brother Ren? Ha 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 ha. Zhang Xiaohua understood and was secretly happy. Then Zhang Xiaohua got into a fighting stance and said, if that's the case, then please give me some pointers, Senior Brother Qi. Then, she didn't hold back and raised her fist. Qi Yuntian didn't dare to be negligent and also came forward. So, the two of them stood together. But after the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, Zhang Xiaohua felt that something was wrong. Although Qi Yuntian's martial arts were a bit better than Cheng Shi's, but compared to Yi Cheng Liao's, he was still lacking. She should have no problem defeating him, but this guy was guarding the center of the arena. No matter how much she tried to lure him, no matter how many openings Zhang Xiaohua revealed, he would only chase after her a few steps and then immediately return to his original position. When Zhang Xiaohua attacked, he would only retreat a few steps. Looking far away, he would immediately use his qing gong to dodge around Zhang Xiaohua and return to his original position. He seemed to have decided, I won't leave the center of the arena. Let's see how you will lure me out. A moment ago, when Qi Yuntian came up, he had already cleaned up the surrounding trash. It would be difficult to find even a scrap of paper. This eliminated the possibility of Zhang Xiaohua accidentally bumping into him. Seeing this, Zhang Xiaohua sighed in her heart. This is going to be a very difficult battle. This, difficult, wasn't because of the opponent's martial arts, but because of how to defeat him without leaving any traces. Looking at Qi Yuntian's cautious appearance, It was really difficult. Thus, the two of them were in a deadlock for a while. That's because Zhang Xiaohua didn't have a good method, so it could only be a draw. While Zhang Xiaohua was thinking, another incense stick's worth of time passed. Zhang Xiaohua threw a punch at Qi Yuntian, using only 20% of his strength. If it was a moment ago, Qi Yuntian would have used his internal qi to block, but this time, Qi Yuntian dodged to the side and used his Qi Yuntian hand to cut Zhang Xiaohua's pulse. Zhang Xiaohua's left palm hit Qi Yuntian, but Qi Yuntian immediately retracted his attack. His body flashed. He didn't want to meet Zhang Xiaohua's attack head-on. Instead, he moved behind Zhang Xiaohua and raised his leg to attack his back. Zhang Xiaohua didn't turn around, but raised her leg to kick Qi Yuntian's leg. When Qi Yuntian saw this, he didn't meet the kick head-on. Instead, he flipped his body and changed direction in midair. He reached out to grab the back of Zhang Xiaohua's neck. This wonderful movement technique caused everyone to cheer. Seeing that Qi Yuntian didn't meet her attack, Zhang Xiaohua's eyes lit up. She had a plan. This Qi Yuntian's martial arts were about the same as Cheng Shi's, but his martial arts were ranked 7th. This was inseparable from his outstanding movement technique. Of course, this movement technique wasn't worth mentioning in Zhang Xiaohua's eyes. He was avoiding the main force and attacking the weak points. He probably knew that he couldn't defeat Zhang Xiaohua with his own moves, or that it would be very difficult to defeat her. Therefore, he chose to use his movement technique to exhaust Zhang Xiaohua's physical strength and internal energy. He wanted to achieve a stable and assured victory over Zhang Xiaohua. To Zhang Xiaohua, who had just fought 2 battles, this was a very appropriate and very wise strategy. Everyone outside the arena, including the 5 consecrators, Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu, all had the same idea. However, the person he met was Zhang Xiaohua, and not anyone else. These 2 gambling matches were just a show for this fellow, and he did not use up any of his strength or true qi at all. How could he be afraid of such a battle of attrition? However, it was also because of Qi Yuntian's change in tactics that Zhang Xiaohua found a breakthrough. And, didn't you want to fight a battle of attrition? Then let's fight. This brother also has the same plan. Let's see who can outlast the other. Thus, Zhang Xiaohua slowly began to fight with Qi Yuntian. Of course, she couldn't fight with him so leisurely. So, Zhang Xiaohua was also panting. Her movements were sluggish and her footsteps were getting heavier. On the other hand, Qi Yuntian seemed to realize that his strategy was correct. His body became lighter and lighter like a butterfly in spring. He surrounded Zhang Xiaohua. This Xiaohua. Fly, 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 fly non-stop. Unfortunately, after flying for a long time, Zhang Xiaohua was still panting. Qi Yuntian's body couldn't be as light as before and slowly slowed down. Nonsense, this movement technique also required physical strength and internal energy. Please vote monthly, recommend vote. Chapter 556. At this moment, Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but hesitate. Before entering the arena, Chen Fengxiao had already said a lot of things. His words were vague and pointed out, "Little brother, I arranged for you to be in the last 2 matches because I don't want you to win. Haha, don't completely win. Give the pill department some face." Pill department's face? Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but sneer. This face was given by Chen Fengxiao from the grass department, not by him. But compared to 50 taels of gold, was the pill department's face more important? It didn't seem to be important. But what about Chen Fengxiao's face? Zhang Xiaohua was a little conflicted. Should he win or not? Well, it depended on whether Chen Fengxiao's face or 50 taels of gold. Who was more important? It was as if he had returned to the Misty Peak when he participated in the 2nd round of the martial arts exhibition. But needless to say, the difference between the current Zhang Xiaohua and the previous Zhang Xiaohua was like clouds and mud. Even Qi Yuntian, in terms of Qinggong, might not be able to compete with that young disciple of the Misty School who had passed the first stage of the Misty School. That young disciple was a real disciple of the Misty School. This Qi Yuntian was just a disciple of the pill department of the pill expanding hall. He didn't even have the qualifications to be an outer disciple. However, Qi Yuntian, who had become a butterfly, didn't have the self-awareness. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua constantly gasping for breath, he thought that if he put in more effort, he would be able to defeat him. So he tried his best again and again. Unfortunately, Xianxia was like a wildflower in the wind and rain. He swayed left and right, but did not fall. Until Qi Yuntian suddenly realized that his already weak internal energy had dried up. Not to mention the fact that he couldn't use Qinggong, he didn't even have the strength to stand and move his fists and legs. On the other hand, Zhang Xiaohua was still gasping for breath, just like before. Suddenly, a chill rose from the bottom of Qi Yuntian's heart. Could it be that this Zhang Xiaohua was a hidden master? Was he trying to lure him into a trap by putting on such a pathetic appearance? But then he thought again, what's the benefit of baiting me? If he's an expert, he can just knock me down directly. Either way, the outcome of the battle will be 50 gold taels worth of medicinal pills. Io, my medicinal pills. How many years of savings have I accumulated? The more he thought about it, the less strength he had left his body. After the time it took to eat a meal, Qi Yuntian sat down on the ground. He raised his hands and weakly shouted, I can't take it anymore. I admit defeat. After he said that, he lay on the ground like a dead pig, unable to move. And when Zhang Xiaohua heard this, she also immediately fell to the ground, motionless. She was actually exhausted. When Qi Yuntian admitted defeat, the entire Tianmu Peak was silent. It was even quieter than when Zhang Xiaohua knocked Yi Chengliao unconscious. Many people covered their mouths in disbelief, their eyes flashing with disbelief. That's right, they had the same thought as Qi Yuntian. This guy had already fought 2 rounds. Even if it was a battle of attrition, he would still be exhausted to death. But this Zhang Xiaohua was like a cockroach. From beginning to end, she was moaning, but in the end, she was still standing strong. Even if she fell to the ground, she would fall behind Qi Yuntian. Shady, it was unknown which disciple hysterically shouted out this slogan. Sure enough, he was not the only smart one. All the disciples loudly shouted, cheating! Cheating! Investigate thoroughly! Investigate thoroughly! Seeing this, Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu turned pale with fright. That's right, according to normal logic, the winner of this last round would definitely be Qi Yuntian. But what if Qi Yuntian had thrown the match? What if he had let people bet on Zhang Xiaohua's victory? Wouldn't he be able to win against everyone on Tianmu Peak? Then the benefits he would receive would be enough to make up for the 50 taels of gold he had lost against Zhang Xiaohua. Moreover, these 50 taels of gold pills were not from his own pocket. He had a secret agreement with Wu Zhouxiu. Thinking of these agreements, and looking at the agitated crowd, Wu Zhouxiu's expression was extremely ugly. At this moment, old consecrator Lei stood up with a sorrowful expression. He weakly announced, the 10th battle, Ren Xiaoyao of the grass tribe wins. Then, looking at the other 4 consecrators beside him, he said, this Tianmu Peak gambling competition ends now. Based on the current score, the grass tribe has won with 8 wins and 2 losses. Furthermore, they have received 60% of the 300 taels of gold from the Pill tribe. Pill tribe's Wu Dalong will promptly hand over this wager to head leader Chen of the grass tribe. As for the winners and losers of each battle, they must also promptly hand over their 50 taels of gold or pills of equivalent value to the winner. If they do not hand it over within 3 days, the winner will be handed over to us for judgment. If they do not hand over their winnings, they will be given a double punishment. After saying this, he shouted again, disciples, please be patient. Our judgment will personally check the record of the last bet with Pill tribe's Wu Dalong and head leader Chen of the grass tribe. If any disciple deliberately lost to the opponent, we will severely punish them. All right, the disciples all cheered. They all sat down and waited quietly. It seemed that they would definitely not leave today without a thorough investigation. Qi Yuntian, who was paralyzed in the arena, had already understood what was going on. He was filled with anger. Do I have to go this far? In order to win the 50 taels of gold, I begged Wu Dalong yesterday morning and borrowed quite a bit. If I could win, how could I lose to the opponent? That was 50 taels of gold. I'm not a fool. Furthermore, even if I cheated, how much more could it be than 50 taels of gold? Sai. Zhang Xiaohua, who had closed her eyes and pretended to be exhausted, was overjoyed. She would soon know the results of her victory. Thinking back, She was still worried about how to find someone to cash out their winnings, afraid that someone would go back on their word. And this was great. Everything was announced to the public. Let's see who would dare to go back on their word. The speed of sorting out the records was very fast. Of course, with thousands of pairs of eyes watching, who would dare to be slow? But the result? It was really out of everyone's expectations. Out of the thousands of disciples from the Pill tribe and Grass tribe, there was only one person who bet on Xianxia's victory. That was of course Bai Huan from the Grass tribe. Bai Huan? The consecrator who had once asked Bai Huan to lead the way to Xianxia had a deep impression of him. He asked, "Head Chen, this Bai Huan wouldn't be carrying Qi Yuntian's bet, right?" It seemed that the consecrators were well aware of the little tricks of the disciples below. Wu Zhouxiu also looked at Chen Fengxiao with a face full of doubts. Chen Fengxiao shook his head and said, "It seems that we have wronged Qi Yuntian. This Bai Huan definitely didn't bet on Qi Yuntian's behalf. Because he bet on Ren Xiaoyao's behalf. Furthermore, I also know that this was a bet for 2 blood-replenishing pills, and it was Qiu Wei Cheng's pills." Sure enough, when old consecrator Lei looked at the back, there were indeed 2 blood-replenishing pills written at the back. This was something that Chen Fengxiao didn't see. Since he knew about it, it must be true. At the same time, everyone who heard this felt a sense of absurdity. Using 2 blood-replenishing pills to win against thousands of people in the field, even if it was 2 blood-replenishing pills per person, such a small bet was still 2,000 pills. It was much more than 50 taels of gold. Hiss! Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu both sucked in a breath of cold air as if they had a toothache. They were incomparably regretful. If I also bet a little, wouldn't I have a share of these 2,000 pills? If I bet 10 taels of gold, these 2 blood-replenishing pills can be ignored. Wouldn't the 2,000 pills all be mine? But this Ren Xiaoyao was obviously going to lose. How could I have known that in the end he would actually win? Since the result was out, it naturally had to be announced. However, no one believed this result. In the end, they could only let the various people send their own representatives up to witness it with their own eyes. Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu also patted their chests solemnly, assuring that there was no problem with this record. Only then did they manage to suppress the crowd's emotions. That's right, since the beginning of the gambling matches on Tianmu Peak, who knew how many matches there had been? There had also been gambling matches with great disparities in strength, but none of them had been as coincidental as today. Everyone had bet on Qi Yuntian, who was sure to win, and only Zhang Xiaohua had bet on herself. Oh no, only Bai Huan had bet on the Grass Division disciple. Well, after the disciples of the Pill Division and the Grass Division knew the result, those who didn't know Bai Huan secretly tried to find out who was called Bai Huan. Their tone was extremely unfriendly, and those who knew Bai Huan shot murderous glances at Bai Huan. In an instant, Bai Huan's brilliance immediately overshadowed the victorious Zhang Xiaohua. Seeing the strange looks from the crowd, Bai Huan felt uncomfortable. I'm innocent. I bet on the Pill Division myself. This bet was placed on someone else's behalf. But now, even if he was given 10 more guts, would he dare to say that it was Headmaster Chen's instructions? Not to mention that this would immediately make Zhang Xiaohua the target of public criticism. Moreover, what if Headmaster Chen used Zhang Xiaohua's name to win? Bai Huan shuddered. It was as if he could see himself being beaten and killed on a moonless and windy night. At this time, Qi Yuntian had just finished resting and recovered a bit of strength. Seeing that his grievances had been cleared, there was no reason for him to stay on the ground. He got up and walked in front of Zhang Xiaohua. "Junior brother Ren, congratulations on winning the last round." Zhang Xiaohua was lying on the ground, still looking like he was about to die. He stretched out his hands lazily and said, "Senior brother Qi, thank you for letting me win. Actually, I didn't expect to win in the end. I just thought that if I let out a breath, the 50 taels of gold would be given to someone else. I didn't dare to vent my anger. I didn't expect senior brother Qi to be the first." Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua didn't have any strength and hearing him mention the 50 taels of gold, Qi Yuntian couldn't help but want to go up and kick him. "You're already like this when you came up, and you're still like this now. Are you done yet?" Qi Yuntian suppressed his anger, cupped his hands and walked away. Seeing that there was no need to pretend, Zhang Xiaohua stood up shakily. At this time, Chen Fengxiao came over and helped Zhang Xiaohua up. He smiled and said, Little brother is really talented. Do you want to know how much you won in the last round? Zhang Xiaohua's eyes lit up and he asked. It's all because of Headmaster Chen's guidance. I have to thank Tuodin Hall, Tianmu Peak, and the Grass Sect. Well, I also have to thank Chuanxiang School for giving me this opportunity. Chapter 557. Hearing Zhang Xiaohua's words, Chen Fengxiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, Little brother, don't give me this empty speech. It's meaningless. Perhaps only the senior elders of our fragrance cult like this kind of speech. Oh, by the way, you should thank Bai Huan first. Look, now he has successfully transferred the anger of the disciples to him. You, the big winner of the gambling fight, are relaxed. Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, Of course I know this. Please rest assured, Head Chen. I will give Senior Bai an explanation. I won't let him die without knowing the reason. Chen Fengxiao was stunned. What is this? Then Zhang Xiaohua slowly walked forward a few steps and said loudly, Senior brothers of the Pill Expanding Hall, I am Ren Xiaoyao from the Grass Sect. Hee, I think everyone already knows me by now. Seeing this, not only Chen Fengxiao was stunned, but everyone else was also stunned. They looked at him strangely and secretly said, Is he going to give a victory speech? Well, that's right. A victory speech is very important. A speech of entry, a speech of apprenticeship, and a speech of victory are also important. Zhang Xiaohua continued, I've just arrived at Tianmu Peak and have just joined the big family of Pill Tower Hall. I'm very happy and hope that I can get along well with all of you in the future. The victory of the 3 battles in the morning, as well as the 3 prizes, don't matter to me. Yes, everything is fleeting. I still care about your feelings and hope that you all will treat me as your own junior brother. Also, I asked senior brother Bai Huan to help me bet on those 2 pills. Of course I bet on myself to win. I'm sure all of you won't suspect me of cheating. Don't you think that I won't cheat? With a boom, everyone was in an uproar. They were all whispering to each other. What he said was right. It was only reasonable that Zhang Xiaohua bet on himself. After all, he had bet on himself before. It could be regarded as giving himself some energy and motivation. Moreover, 2 elixirs were more reasonable. After all, he didn't have the confidence to win. However, each person using 2 medicinal pills to exchange for 2,000 medicinal pills, that was thought-provoking. Some people's faces gradually became unkind. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua said, But, I'm new here, so I have to give everyone a greeting gift. Everyone's hearts raced. It couldn't be that they were going to be exempted, right? They really knew how to think. Zhang Xiaohua said, This is a greeting gift. No matter if it's the 3 senior martial brothers on the stage or the many senior martial brothers off the stage, within these 3 days, bring the same amount of medicinal pills as you and come to my small courtyard to continue the challenge. As long as you can win, I will wipe out the bill of your losses. Oh, that's right, if you don't have enough medicinal pills, then bring some rare medicinal herbs. I won't refuse any of them. Unfair. Suddenly, a person from the Dan department shouted, You know martial arts. Many of our Dan department's disciples are not good at martial arts. How can we be your opponent just by relying on martial arts? Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, This senior martial brother is right. You can ask other senior martial brothers who know martial arts to fight. Of course, this senior martial brother who stands out will also have to take out medicinal pills. Or if you feel that your martial arts are not good enough, you can form a group of 5 to 10 people. I will accept all of them. At this moment, Chen Fengxiao could not figure out Zhang Xiaohua's intentions. If Zhang Xiaohua simply wanted to know Zhang Xiaohua's true intentions, there was no need to make such a big move. This seemed to be a 1 versus 10 situation. Even Chen Fengxiao would not dare to declare war on everyone like this. Zhang Xiaohua didn't care about this. When he saw the eagerness in the eyes of the disciples, he knew that his words had worked. Then, his legs went soft again, as if he had no strength. Chen Fengxiao hurried forward to support him and said, Disciples, since Ren Xiaoyao from the Grass Department is so generous and wants to return the winnings to you in a unique way, then please come to the small courtyard by the mountain tomorrow to challenge him. Let him have a good rest this afternoon. There were already disciples of the Dan department who had found a loophole in Zhang Xiaohua's words, and wanted to go to the small courtyard in the afternoon to challenge him. But when they heard Chen Fengxiao's words, they gave up the idea of taking advantage of the situation. Chen Fengxiao supported Zhang Xiaohua and waved to Bai Huan, saying, "Come here and help junior brother Ren back to the small courtyard. Later, go to the judges and bring the list of people who have placed their bets." This is junior brother Ren's first time participating, so he probably doesn't know how to deal with the aftermath. You can do it for him. Bai Huan didn't dare to disobey. She quickly ran over and supported Zhang Xiaohua, who was on the verge of collapsing. Then, she slowly walked back to the small courtyard. As soon as Zhang Xiaohua left, the biggest bet in the history of Tianmu Peak ended beautifully. In the past, the grass department always won more than they lost. But today, they were the biggest winner. Before Zhang Xiaohua's figure disappeared, Chen Fengxiao couldn't help but smile. Not to mention that other than Zhang Xiaohua's 3 wins, the other 5 bets were all funded by him. How could the wealth of the 6 great arhats be worth 50 taels of gold? Excluding the 2 losses, Chen Fengxiao's grass department had won 3 bets, 150 taels of gold. In addition to the 300 taels of gold that the Dan department had lost to the grass department, it was a total of 450 taels of gold. If it was converted into elixirs, it would be a terrifying figure. Chen Fengxiao was a little worried. Did Wu Dalong have enough wealth to pay for the bet? This worry was actually the reason why Chen Fengxiao wanted Zhang Xiaohua to lose a match at that time. Since he couldn't pay for it, he might as well not win. It could be considered as giving face to Wu Zhouxiu. The first thing after the bet was to settle the results. At this time, the 5 guardians were sitting behind the table, quietly waiting for the arrival of Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu. After the radiant Chen Fengxiao and the gloomy Wu Zhouxiu walked in front of them, old guardian Lei said with a smile, "Since the 2 leaders are here, let's start settling the results now." Then, he pointed to the dozens of huge sheets of paper in front of them and said, "Except for the list of bets for the last bet, the rest are the same as before. We will post them for public display and let the disciples hand over their bets to us. Then, we will distribute the elixirs according to the situation of each match." Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu both nodded and said, "This is common practice. Thank you for your hard work." Old guardian Lei said with a smile, "The amount of bets for this bet is very large. We have also benefited greatly. There's no need to be courteous. Oh, as for the list of bets for the last bet, I think according to what Leader Chen said just now, let the grass division take it and let Ren Xiaoyao face it alone. What do you think?" Chen Fengxiao cupped his hands and said, "Ren Xiaoyao doesn't know the rules. He has made a fool of himself in front of all of you. However, it's good that he's doing this. It will reduce the burden on all of you. If all of you don't object, Wu Dalong also has no objections." "I also agree." Wu Zhouxiu sneered and said, "It's the disciples' bets left and right. Moreover, it's all against Ren Xiaoyao alone. Then let him have a headache. Why would I have any objections?" "Yes." Old guardian Lei nodded. He picked up the top few sheets and handed them to Chen Fengxiao. The other sheets were handed to the disciple beside him for him to post. Then, old guardian Lei took out a piece of white paper from the side and picked up a pen to write on it. After he finished writing, he handed it to Chen Fengxiao and said with a smile, "Leader Chen, this is the final result of the bet between the grass division and the pill division. The pill division needs to pay the grass division a total of 300 taels of gold or elixirs of equivalent value. Look carefully. If you have no objections, please sign and make your mark." Chen Fengxiao took it and looked carefully. Without hesitation, he picked up the pen and signed on it. Beside him, Wu Zhouxiu's cheeks twitched when he heard this. When he took the pen, Chen Fengxiao said apologetically, "Dalong, you know why I put Ren Xiaoyao's last 2 bets together." "It's just that." Wu Zhouxiu gritted his teeth and said, "Leader Chen, don't say any more. I understand. It's just that, sigh, my life is not good. Forget it, don't worry. I will pay you back even if I have to sell everything." These words were said with integrity, but also very bleak. Of course, if Wu Zhouxiu had not schemed against the golden leaf in Zhang Xiaohua's bag, how would he have ended up like this? Not to mention that he had to compensate the grass division for the previous bet. Even his own family's property would be emptied. Man proposes, God disposes, and the unintentional can't outsmart the intentional. At this time, the most intentional person, with the help of Bai Huan, slowly walked back to the small courtyard by the cliff. When they reached the door, Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said to Bai Huan, "Senior brother Bai, I have troubled you with the betting just now. And you can send me here. I will go in myself." "All right, tell the other senior brothers that I will have a good rest this afternoon. Don't disturb me. Also, I will have to trouble senior brother Bai to organize the records of the challenges and elixirs in the next 3 days. I think senior brother Bai should be familiar with this." Then he took out a bottle of blood-replenishing pills from his bag and handed it to Bai Huan, saying, "The blood-replenishing pills in the bottle are for senior brother Bai. The rest is my thanks." Bai Huan immediately declined. "Junior brother Ren is too polite. The 2 elixirs you bet on are senior brother Chio's. Moreover, you don't have to give the elixirs first. You have to pay the final amount. The elixirs are still in my arms. Then I will give this bottle of elixirs to senior brother Bai and senior brother Chio. You can give it to senior brother Chio. After I am done with these 2 days, I will thank senior brother Bai." "Is that so?" Bai Huan was a little overjoyed, saying, "In that case, senior brother will not be polite." After he finished speaking, he reached out and took the bottle. Zhang Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, "Senior brother Bai, there is one more thing I need to trouble you with." Bai Huan, who had benefited from it, smiled and said, "Since we are brothers, just tell me what you need." Zhang Xiaohua said seriously, "Our brothers in the grass division must have been suppressed by the pill division and don't have any elixirs in hand. I have so many elixirs here, but they are useless. If the brothers in the grass division want elixirs, then you can use your herbs to exchange for them." "Exchange elixirs with herbs?" Bai Huan was stunned. Please vote monthly, recommend. Chapter 558. Bai Huan was very puzzled. These herbs were everywhere on Tianmu Peak. Who would be so wasteful as to exchange elixirs for herbs? These were 2 completely different things. Thus he asked in disbelief, "Junior Marshal Brother Ren, are you telling the truth? You can exchange herbs for elixirs?" Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile, "Of course it's true. Didn't I say it on the field just now?" Bai Huan scratched her head. "Who would believe that? Herbs are not valuable, and we can't refine them into elixirs. Who would exchange elixirs for something so simple? Oh, Junior Brother Ren, do you have any other conditions?" Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, "That's right. You don't need to exchange for ordinary herbs. Only the older, rare, or never-before-seen herbs are useful." "Really?" Bai Huan still didn't believe him and said, "I happen to have an unknown medicinal herb that I picked up in the Yulon Grand Canyon a few years ago when I was lucky enough to participate in the Yulon Evening Refinement. I wonder how many pills Junior Brother Ren can give me?" Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. "Yulon Evening Refinement? Yulon Grand Canyon? What's that?" However, Bai Huan was too excited to listen to him. She immediately turned around and walked away. As she walked, she said, "Junior Brother Ren, you go in and have a rest. I'll get that herb and see if I can exchange it for a small bone-congealing pill." Zhang Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said loudly, "Senior Brother Bai, don't worry. It's not too late to bring it tomorrow. I'll keep it for you. I need to adjust my qi circulation and rest later." Bai Huan stopped and said worriedly, "Junior Brother Ren, you must keep it for me. I'll go back now and ask Elder Lei for the record of the bet. I'll help you sort it out first. Well, if you want to fulfill the wishes of our grass clan brothers, I'll definitely help you." After he finished speaking, he waved his hand and hurriedly left. Since he was the first to receive the news, he had to prepare the medicinal herbs first. He couldn't let others beat him to it. If it weren't for Zhang Xiaohua's repeated reminders, he might have only told others the news after he finished exchanging for the medicinal pills. Seeing Bai Huan leave happily, Zhang Xiaohua was even happier. Not only could she exchange her useless pills for medicinal herbs, but she could also establish a good image in front of the Grass Clan brothers. Anyone would be happy. Walking into the courtyard, Zhang Xiaohua closed the door and jumped into the air. She somersaulted a few times in the air and landed on the ground. She almost looked up to the sky and laughed. Today, she was really too excited. Thinking about the 150 taels of gold worth of medicinal pills and the pills that almost all the disciples of Tianmu Peak had lost to her. Well, if they didn't give up tomorrow and still wanted to fish for more, Then they would lose the same amount of medicinal pills to her. Just thinking about this amount of money was scary. If she used these medicinal pills to exchange for medicinal herbs, then how much would she get? Moreover, even a disciple like Bai Huan had rare medicinal herbs, not to mention the other disciples. She had just entered the fragrance cult and was already able to find the dragon scale fruit in the forest. Then these disciples who were active in Tianmu Peak and the other 19 peaks would definitely have better things. That's right. What is this Yulon Dusk refinement in the Yulon Grand Canyon? There must be some excellent medicinal herbs in there. I should ask Headmaster Chen when I have time and take a look. In the eyes of others, the 3 gambling matches in a single morning might seem very difficult, just like Zhang Xiaohua's performance. However, in reality, Zhang Xiaohua was simply playing around. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to lure the disciples to take revenge in the next 3 days, or that he wanted to keep a low profile, he would have finished off all the so-called Vajras in the first few moments of the battle. Now that his muscles and bones had been moved, it was natural for him to comprehend the heavenly Tao and cultivate array formations. This was his real homework. The heavenly Tao was so vast, and Zhang Xiaohua was so small. Under the brilliance of heaven and earth, Zhang Xiaohua was almost not even an ant. Every time Zhang Xiaohua sensed the boundless heavenly Tao, he couldn't help but sigh with emotion. This seemingly endless comprehension, he didn't know when it would come to an end. However, every time he sighed, it also sharpened his Tao heart, making his Tao heart more solid. The ancients said, "There is a path in the mountain of books, and there is a path in the boundless sea of learning." This was the most accurate. The seemingly indeterminate heavenly Tao had gradually formed a small path in Zhang Xiaohua's tireless comprehension. Although it was just the beginning and the path ahead was not clear, there were 3,000 great Taos, and each path was different. Who could say that Zhang Xiaohua's small path would not develop into a great Tao in the future? Could it be one of the 3,000 great Taos? Time passed very quickly, and the floating clouds in the sky gradually thinned out. The fiery sun had already set in the west. Zhang Xiaohua, who was comprehending the heavenly Tao, seemed to have gained something, but also seemed to have gained nothing. In the haze, his heart suddenly moved. He frowned and opened his eyes, releasing his divine sense. Sure enough, he saw that outside the bamboo forest, a person was sneakily looking left and right. He walked over quietly, and when he was close to the bamboo forest, he turned his head and saw that there was no one near him. He immediately exerted force on his feet, and his figure flashed into the bamboo forest. Then, he used his lightness skill to rush to the small courtyard where Zhang Xiaohua lived. When Zhang Xiaohua looked carefully, wasn't that the leader of the 10 great guardian deities, Zhou Shuming? What is this unlucky guy doing here? Wasn't he killed by Headmaster Chen when he just entered the arena yesterday? Don't tell me he's here to find trouble with me? Zhang Xiaohua was somewhat puzzled. Even if he's here to find trouble with me, he can come openly tomorrow. I've already said that the challenge will begin tomorrow. Coming today, it's not proper for him to come, is it? Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense followed Zhou Shuming until the small courtyard was near. Zhou Shuming jumped down from the bamboo. His figure was very vigorous, and when he saw Zhang Xiaohua's heart moved, this guy's lightness skill is higher than Qi Yuntian's. It's almost the same as the patrolling disciple I met when I first entered the fragrant religion. I know, this guy is here to scout for information. Presumably, Zhang Xiaohua did not delay. His figure jumped, and he quickly lay down on the bed that he had never touched before, pretending to be asleep. Zhang Xiaohua's guess was not wrong. She saw Zhou Shuming carefully jump up the wall, and then he went around to the back of the courtyard. In a flash, he entered the small courtyard and used his lightness skill to reach the top of the attic. He pressed his ear to the roof and listened for a long time. Then he tiptoed to the roof, and like a lotus flower hanging upside down, he stuck his head out of the roof. In the empty room, he saw Zhang Xiaohua lying on the bed with his clothes still on. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's sleeping appearance, Zhou Shuming could not help but smile. As long as one's martial arts was strong, if they exhausted their internal energy, they would sit cross-legged and adjust their breathing. But this kind of ordinary person's rest, needless to say, was because their physical strength was exhausted. Simple adjustment of breathing would not be able to recover, and they could only rely on the most primitive method to satisfy the body's needs. It seems that this Ren Xiaoyao is really tired. Isn't that right? 2 matches in a row. Even I would not be able to win completely. Moreover, the last match was to exhaust my physical strength. This little guy is still inexperienced in gambling. Although sleeping can replenish his physical strength, but when he wakes up the next day, his hands and feet will be weak. How can he gamble? This trip was not in vain. Zhou Shuming thought to himself as he observed carefully. After a meal, the sky had already darkened. Only then did Zhou Shuming pack up and use his qinggong to slip away. In the darkness, his figure could not be seen clearly. Ha ha ha. After Zhou Shuming left, Zhang Xiaohua flipped over and sat up. She muttered to herself, "It seems that the people of Tianmu Peak are not fools. They actually sent someone to check on me. It seems that I have to set up more bait tomorrow." After thinking, Zhang Xiaohua was about to close her eyes and do her homework when she suddenly frowned. Although she did not release her divine sense, after exhausting her divine sense in the Rejuvenation Valley, she had gained a deeper understanding of the way of the heavens. Abnormalities within a radius of several tens of feet would often be reflected in her senses without her divine sense. At this moment, she sensed that someone was approaching the bamboo forest. This headmaster Chen is really good. At noon in the gambling arena, he had already made it clear that no one was to disturb me. Why is there still someone disturbing me at night? Just now it was the Dajin gang of the Dan department. Who could it be now? When Zhang Xiaohua used his divine sense to look, it was not anyone else. It was Headmaster Chen Fengxiao. Beside him was his right-hand man Qiu Wei Cheng. It was just that the two of them walked to the side of the bamboo forest and stopped in their tracks. They were whispering to each other and discussing something, just like the last time when they came to the Wuzhou ruins. Zhang Xiaohua shrugged and thought to himself, "What's wrong with them? They still haven't finished their discussion and come over." However, it was different this time. The two of them talked for a while and looked at the small courtyard at the other end of the bamboo forest. They did not enter again. Instead, they nodded to each other and turned back. Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. Why didn't they come in? That's strange. Since they did not come to disturb him, Zhang Xiaohua continued with his homework. He immersed his divine sense into his Ni1 palace and began to comprehend his rabbit talisman. He had forgotten that the sky was already dark and he did not even light a lamp. It gave people the impression that he was already asleep. How could Chen Fengxiao and Qiu Wei Cheng knock on the door in the dark? It was a quiet night. The next morning, Zhang Xiaohua finished practicing the Big Dipper magical fist and released his divine sense. He actually did not discover anyone within 100 feet of him. He could not help but feel strange. Could it be that they were not fooled? Sigh. Zhang Xiaohua was a little obsessed with money. The sky had just brightened and people had not even eaten breakfast. Why would they rush over to find trouble with him? Although there was no one now, people would come soon. It was neither too long nor too short a time. Zhang Xiaohua was a little bored and took out the jade water sword from his money bag. Although the jade water sword was very sharp and could produce sword light by injecting qi into it, it was a pity that Zhang Xiaohua did not know any sword techniques. Those nameless sword techniques were all used by Zhu Meng. This jade water sword could only be of little use. Casually injecting qi into the jade water sword, he randomly waved it in the air a few times. The sound of the sword tearing through the air was very ear-piercing. If it could be paired with a suitable sword technique, it would be a sharp weapon to kill the enemy. Regretfully withdrawing his qi, Zhang Xiaohua looked at the jade water sword in front of him and then inserted the short sword into the old scabbard. But just as his gaze swept past the scabbard, Zhang Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. His divine sense quickly swept over and immediately, his eyes flashed with surprise. "Vote for me." Chapter 559. When Zhang Xiaohua received the jade water sword from weapon-casting sect Si Yakong, he had also used his divine sense to examine the jade water sword. However, he had not seen the scabbard in Si Yakong's hands. At this moment, he spread out his divine sense. With just a glance, he could sense the strangeness within. This scabbard was not strange because of the fluctuation of vital qi emitted by the scabbard, which could attract the attention of Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense. Instead, it was because when his divine sense swept past, he actually discovered that there was an extremely hidden layer at the bottom of the scabbard. This layer was extremely small and blocked the interior of the scabbard. Even if he used his naked eyes to observe, he would not be able to see it. Since the layer was so hidden, and the scabbard was also extremely simple and unadorned, the things inside must be extraordinary. Zhang Xiaohua picked up the jade water sword and channeled vital qi into it. Immediately, it produced an inch-long sword ray. Then, he raised the scabbard and very carefully cut a small slit in the scabbard. From that slit, a piece of silk was revealed. Zhang Xiaohua used the fingernail of his little finger to pull out the silk. It was actually a large sword manual that recorded all kinds of sword-wielding figures. Zhang Xiaohua frowned and thought to himself, "My luck is actually so good? Just now, I was still thinking that if there was a matching sword manual, now I can find the real sword manual in the scabbard. That's not very possible." As expected, when he looked at it carefully, the sword manual depicted a long sword and not a short sword like the jade water sword. It seemed like this sword manual was not specially used for the jade water sword. Of course, if Zhang Xiaohua fully displayed the sword ray, its length would be about the same as a normal long sword. Zhang Xiaohua would not think that this was a sword technique specially used for the sword ray. Although this sword technique might not be suitable for the jade water sword, didn't Zhang Xiaohua still have the great wisdom sword? Moreover, Zhang Xiaohua himself did not have a complete set of sword manuals. Therefore, Zhang Xiaohua still carefully read it from beginning to end. However, Zhang Xiaohua frowned as he read. His martial arts cultivation had already reached a higher level. Perhaps he had not really learned sword techniques before, but when he mastered one technique, he could master all techniques. When he finished reading all 81 sword techniques, he felt that there was something strange about it. However, he could not tell where the reason was at that moment. Zhang Xiaohua was about to take a closer look when he heard a call-out from outside. Zhang Xiaohua slapped his forehead and laughed heartily. "Business is here." Putting away the silk, Zhang Xiaohua walked out of the house. Bai Huan's call came from outside the courtyard. Hearing Zhang Xiaohua's response, Bai Huan quickly walked into the courtyard. He was holding a few pieces of paper with densely packed words in his hands. His eyes were a little red as he walked in. When he saw Zhang Xiaohua, he smiled and said, "Junior brother Ren, you really made a fortune. Previously, when I saw you winning 3 rounds in a row in the gambling arena, I was already jealous. However, when Headmaster Chan brought me the betting records last night and asked me to help you manage them, I finally know what it means to be jealous." Then he shook the paper in his hand and said, "This is a lot more pills than Junior brother Ren won 3 rounds in the gambling arena. Junior brother Ren is really smart to bet so tightly. Why didn't I bet with you at that time?" Before Zhang Xiaohua placed his bet, he had a rough idea of what was going on. He didn't expect that he was the only one who placed his bet on the grass division winning. If there were a few more people, not many, just 10, then the bet wouldn't be so eye-catching. However, Zhang Xiaohua's fortune was booming and he was the only one who won. Zhang Xiaohua coughed twice and put on an enigmatic look. He smiled and said, "Senior brother Bai, you worry too much. I'll have to trouble senior brother Bai to work hard these few days. When everything is settled, I'll have a generous reward for you." Bai Huan smiled apologetically and said, "Junior brother Ren will be the moneybags of Tianmu Peak in the future. As your senior brother, I still have to rely on you. You don't have to be so polite." Then, he took out a small jade box and handed it over, saying, "Junior brother Ren, this is the medicinal herb that I've collected. Take a look and see if it's to your liking." Zhang Xiaohua took the jade box. The jade box was very long and narrow, like a thick stick. He casually opened the jade box. Inside, there was a light blue medicinal herb. The leaves were triangular and there were small yellow flowers at the top. The flowers had long withered, but they emitted a faint fragrance. Although the fragrance was very faint, when it entered the nose, it would make one's heart faint. When Zhang Xiaohua saw it, he frowned, but a trace of joy flashed in his eyes. This medicinal herb was indeed familiar. Although he hadn't seen it before, ever since he saw the prescription for the bone-solidifying pill, he had flipped through the Compendium of Materia Medica and carefully looked at the several main ingredients in the prescription. Wasn't this the fragrant soul wood used in the bone-solidifying pill? In just a few days, he was actually able to find all 3 main ingredients to refine the bone-solidifying pill. This aroma cult was really a treasure trove. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua frown, Bai Huan couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat. He nervously said, "Junior brother Ren, if it's not enough for one bone-solidifying pill, I have a few ordinary medicinal herbs that are around 20 years old. If they are suitable, junior brother, please take a look." Zhang Xiaohua heard and laughed. "I didn't expect senior brother Bai to have such a collection." Bai Huan chuckled and said, "We disciples of the grass division may be lacking in elixirs, but we don't lack medicinal herbs. Who doesn't have medicinal herbs that are 20 years old? Even the disciples of the pill division have won against us in recent years. Oh, by the way, junior brother Ren, this time, you have to be more ruthless to the disciples of the pill division. Help our brothers of the grass division vent their anger." Zhang Xiaohua laughed and patted Bai Huan's shoulder. "That's exactly what I want. Well, senior brother Bai, take out all the medicinal herbs you have. This is the first time I've opened a business, so I'll definitely give you a satisfactory price." Bai Huan smiled awkwardly and took out several jade boxes from his arms and handed them over. Zhang Xiaohua opened them one by one. Although they were not particularly good, they were still rare medicinal herbs that were over 20 years old in Jianghu. Zhang Xiaohua accepted them without hesitation. Then he took out a jade bottle from his arms and handed it to Bai Huan. "Senior brother Bai, here are 3 bone-solidifying pills. Do you like them? If not, I don't have anything good here for the time being. When they send the pills here later, I'll exchange them for you." Hearing 3 bone-solidifying pills, Bai Huan couldn't suppress his joy. He snatched the jade bottle and put it into his arms like lightning. Fearing that Zhang Xiaohua would go back on his word, he kept saying, "That's great, that's great." Seeing Bai Huan's quick actions, Zhang Xiaohua was a little dumbfounded. If this was the case in the fighting arena, who could be Bai Huan's opponent? Holding the record in his hand, Bai Huan slowly explained the situation of yesterday's bet to Zhang Xiaohua while waiting for the arrival of the challengers. But after waiting for almost the time to eat a meal, no one came into the small courtyard. Even when Zhang Xiaohua released his divine sense, he didn't see any traces of other disciples around the bamboo forest. Zhang Xiaohua was a little surprised. Could it be that I've misunderstood? Under the education of Wu Dalong and Headmaster Chen, the disciples of Tianmu Peak have all reached an unattainable level? But when he thought of Zhou Shuming spying yesterday, Zhang Xiaohua faintly understood. They are all waiting for some test. Maybe only when they feel that I can't handle the challenge of so many people will they continue to come. But what if the first one to test me is the 3 King Kongs? Or the people they invite as replacements? That's an elixir worth 50 taels of gold. Should I let it go? Just as he was thinking, 3 people came from outside the bamboo forest. When Zhang Xiaohua looked, it was Wu Zhouxiu, Chen Fengxiao and Zhou Shuming. There were no other disciples behind them. What's going on? Zhang Xiaohua didn't find it strange. Chen Fengxiao took the lead and led the 2 into the small courtyard. He saw the paper spread on the table, Bai Huan sitting next to it with his chin resting on his hand, and Zhang Xiaohua standing next to him, full of energy and ready to fight. He couldn't help smiling. "Little brother, are you still waiting for the other disciples to send you elixirs?" "No, I'm waiting to return the elixirs to the other disciples." Wu Zhouxiu also walked forward and cupped his hands. "Junior brother Ren, you are a great talent. I admire you." "You've been exposed?" This was Zhang Xiaohua's first reaction. He immediately asked, "Wu Dalong, what do you mean? I don't understand." Ahem. Wu Zhouxiu coughed twice and said helplessly, "Junior brother Ren, not to mention your great victory yesterday, just the conditions you mentioned before you left yesterday caused the entire Tianmu Peak to be restless for the entire night." "That's right. Let's not talk about the pill division. Even our grass division had formed many small groups last night, wanting to challenge you today. And even the 6 great arhats had been stirred up and were eager to give it a try." Wu Zhouxiu at the side looked at Zhou Shuming and said, "The 3 Vajras who lost to you yesterday all went to find junior brother Zhou, wanting him to help them. Even the other disciples went to all 10 Vajras. Tell me, aren't you a great talent? You've only been at Tianmu Peak for a few days and you've already caused such a ruckus?" Zhang Xiaohua grinned and bowed. I didn't think it through. I hope the 2 leaders can forgive me, but what should we do now that we've already said what we wanted yesterday?" Chen Feng smiled and looked at Wu Zhouxiu, then turned to Zhang Xiaohua and said, the disciples of the Dan and Grass divisions were all stopped by us. To them, it's just some elixirs, not a big deal. There's no need to make such a big fuss. However, the stakes of the 3 Vajras are not small, so we can't make the decision on our own. He then pointed at Zhou Shuming and said, "Look, the great Vajra of the Dan division has been elected. Yes, he represents the 3 Vajras who lost to you, as well as the disciples of the Grass division and Dan division who lost to you. He's here to challenge you." This isn't fair, right? Xianxia was speechless. Even if I lose to the great Vajra, I can still win against normal disciples. Wu Zhoushu looked as if he had expected this and said, "It's like this. First, junior brother Zhou represents everyone else to challenge you. If he loses, everyone else's stakes will be increased by 20%. If you lose, you don't have to take everything. You just have to remove 20%. What do you think?" Hee, Zhang Xiaohua was secretly happy. "I think you've all thought it through. If I don't agree, they won't challenge me. I won't even get the extra 20%. Yes, enough is enough. I still have to stay on Tianmu Peak in the future. It's not good to make things too difficult for others." Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, "That's good. I like it very much. I wonder if Wu Dalong has anything else to say?" Wu Zhoushu smiled and said, "Since it's a challenge, if junior brother Zhou raises the conditions of the battle, you should agree to them, right?" Zhang Xiaohua was a little dumbfounded. "Don't tell me it's alcohol?" he said. "Only the conditions of the battle. Nothing else." Chapter 560. No one knew that Zhang Xiaohua was so afraid of drinking. Wu Zhoushu said, "Of course, it's a martial arts competition." Zhang Xiaohua rubbed her nose and said, "Then please enlighten me." Wu Zhoushu pointed at Zhou Shuming and said, "Junior brother Zhou is best at Qinggong. Moreover, junior brother Ran was too tired yesterday and is not suitable for a real fight. Therefore, I have discussed with head leader Chen. Why don't we use Qinggong as the competition content? Junior brother Ren, what do you think?" Zhang Xiaohua had seen how good Zhou Shuming's Qinggong was yesterday, so he was very confident. He smiled and said, "Thank you for your consideration. This Qinggong competition is really tailor-made for me. Then let's do as you say. How should we compete?" Chen Feng smiled as he pointed at the peak of Tianmu Peak in the distance. "We'll start from this small courtyard. You and junior brother Zhou will start towards the peak of Tianmu Peak. There's a giant stone screen at the peak. Elder Lei and the representatives of the Pill and Grass divisions are already waiting there. Whoever reaches the stone screen first will be the winner." Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "Looks like the 2 leaders have arranged everything. I have nothing else to say. Please begin." Chen Fengxiao's face reddened. However, Zhang Xiaohua had offended all the disciples of Tianmu Peak this time and could only suffer a little. Although Zhou Shuming's martial arts was not as good as Chen Fengxiao's, he had been training in internal strength since young and was much stronger than Chen Fengxiao. In Chen Fengxiao's heart, Zhang Xiaohua might not be able to win against Zhou Shuming. However, taking out 20% of the bet to appease the crowd was also very worthwhile. Zhou Shuming heard and smiled. "Junior brother Ran was tired yesterday and I took advantage of him today. Now, please go first." Zhang Xiaohua quickly waved her hand and said, "Don't, senior brother Zhou. You bear the heavy responsibility of the Pill and Grass divisions of our Tianmu Peak. If you are so modest, you will be letting them down. Let's start together." Zhou Shuming's heart trembled, and he cupped his hands and said, "Junior brother is right. Then I'll ask head leader Chen to give the order, and we'll begin together." Chen Feng glanced at Wuzhou ruins with a smile and said, "Then I'll count to 3 and we'll begin. The wind is strong on the mountain peak. Don't let Elder Lei wait for too long." Then he said, 1, 2, 3. In an instant, Zhou Shuming exerted force on his feet, and his figure shot out of the small courtyard like an arrow leaving the bow. Behind him, a green shadow followed closely behind, and was not the slightest bit slower. Wasn't that Zhang Xiaohua? Ah! Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhoushu were shocked when they saw Zhang Xiaohua and Zhou Shuming rush out at the same time, and the speed at which they rushed out was not inferior. Then, they hurriedly used their lightness skill to leap over the wall. Looking at the two shadows running one after another to the top of the mountain, they looked at each other again and said, "It's really tailor-made. Ren Xiaoyao's martial arts is so high that it's not weaker than Zhou Shuming's. It seems that this competition is not what we thought before." Not to mention the two on the wall secretly sighing at their miscalculation. Zhou Shuming and Zhang Xiaohua both used their qinggong to rush to the top of Tianmu Peak. Although in everyone's eyes, and even in Zhou Shuming's heart, the ethereal steps used by Zhang Xiaohua was not something that the pill-expanding hall disciples, who were not even outer disciples of the incense cult, could compare to. Actually, at this point, Zhang Xiaohua had to be criticized. He had been playing the game of a pig to eat a tiger these 2 days, and was really bullying the pill-expanding hall disciples. Based on his true level, it was far beyond what Chen Feng and Wuzhou ruins could imagine. However, firstly, he wanted to enter the pill-expanding hall in a low-key manner to find information about his second brother, so he could not expose his strength. Secondly, he was targeted by Wuzhou ruins and had no choice but to participate in the gambling fight. Thirdly, he did not want to lose his golden leaf to others, and wanted to earn some pills and herbs from others. Therefore, he had no choice but to repeatedly tease these pill-expanding hall disciples. As for Zhou Shuming, he did not know how many times he had run from the waist of Tianmu Peak to the top of the mountain, so he had adjusted his internal energy to the best state. However, no matter how he circulated his internal energy, or how hard he pushed his feet, it seemed that he could not shake off Zhang Xiaohua's tracking. And Zhang Xiaohua seemed to know that this was the last round, so he did not care about his internal energy and followed Zhou Shuming with all his might. Seeing that they were halfway there, the two of them followed the rugged mountain path to an extremely steep area. Zhou Shuming's eyes turned, and his figure flashed, leaving the mountain path, and ran straight to the bottom of a cliff. He turned back to look at Zhang Xiaohua, who was also following him, and could not help but reveal a trace of fierceness in his eyes. He then used both his hands and feet to climb up the steep cliff. This. Zhang Xiaohua, who had followed him to the bottom of the cliff, paused slightly. Looking at the almost vertical cliff, he could not help but hesitate. He was not afraid that he could not climb up, but he was afraid that something would happen to Zhou Shuming. After this round of qinggong competition, he already had a rough idea of Zhou Shuming's level of qinggong and internal energy. This steep cliff was indeed somewhat difficult for Zhou Shuming. But seeing that Zhou Shuming had already climbed up, Zhang Xiaohua did not delay any longer. His body leaned against the cliff wall, and his hands and feet also stuck to it, as if he was climbing. Then he used his internal energy to raise his hand, and used the levitation technique. Immediately he rose up a distance, and not long after, he caught up with Zhou Shuming again. Zhang Xiaohua's guess was not wrong. This cliff was where Zhou Shuming used to practice his qinggong. He had always been able to climb up to a height of 500 feet, and if he went any higher, his internal energy would not be able to support him. In his mind, if he could not climb up to 500 feet, then Zhang Xiaohua would not even be able to climb up to 300 feet. When Zhang Xiaohua slid down the cliff, wouldn't it be time for him to win? Unfortunately, when he reached 30 meters, he looked down and saw Zhang Xiaohua slowly climbing up beneath his feet. When he reached 60 meters, Zhang Xiaohua was still doing the same. When he reached his limit of 50 meters, Zhang Xiaohua was still below him, slowly climbing up. It was almost as if he didn't have the strength to do so. Thinking of this, Zhou Shuming raised his head to look at the peak that was still far away. He was a little hesitant. 500 feet was already his limit. If he slowly slid down now, he should not be hurt. If he went any higher, his internal energy would not be enough. If an accident happened, his life would be in danger. But he had already chosen this path, and he was shouldering the trust of the disciples. If he failed, wouldn't it be? Perhaps this was an opportunity for him to make a breakthrough in his qinggong? Zhou Shuming's eyes suddenly lit up. Although he couldn't do it, Zhang Xiaohua under his feet couldn't do it either. Maybe he would admit defeat in half an hour. At this point, Zhou Shuming also couldn't hide his shame. He had no choice but to brace himself and climb up. Thus, he took a deep breath and continuously sent his internal energy into his meridians. He could only hope that Zhang Xiaohua would quickly give up and surrender. However, after climbing up another 200 feet, Zhou Shuming's internal energy was not enough. When he sneaked a glance down, Xiangshua's thin and tall figure still did not fall half an inch. Zhou Shuming could not help but be greatly surprised. At this moment, his mind was slightly agitated and became unstable. The flow of internal energy in his meridians stagnated. His body could not help but sink and fall. Zhou Shuming was shocked and involuntarily cried out, "Ouch!" His internal energy was immediately deflated and he could not stabilize his body. He saw that he was about to fall onto Zhang Xiaohua. Long before they came up the cliff, Zhang Xiaohua had been paying attention to Zhou Shuming's movements. She was afraid that he would do something sneaky and she was also afraid that something would happen to him. And Zhang Xiaohua was right below Zhou Shuming with the same intention. Seeing Zhou Shuming fall, she was not surprised. Her body slightly moved to the side to make space for him to fall. Zhou Shuming's body made a schwa sound and was about to fall from Zhang Xiaohua's side. At this moment, Zhou Shuming's eyes were full of fear. This was a cliff that was nearly 100 feet high. In a moment, he would fall to the ground. His internal energy was not enough and he had nowhere to borrow strength in the air. At this moment, he saw that Zhang Xiaohua stretched out her left hand and grabbed one of Zhou Shuming's arms like lightning. Zhou Shuming panicked. That arm was about to use force to stabilize his body, and the other hand was about to grab Zhang Xiaohua. In his ears, he heard Zhang Xiaohua's clear voice. "Don't move. If you don't want to die, don't use force and don't pull me. If I feel that you want to move, I will let go of you." Zhou Shuming was stunned and immediately stopped moving. He didn't even dare to move his fingers. Zhang Xiaohua had heard Li Jinfeng say before that if a drowning person wanted to go out, first, they had to be knocked out. Otherwise, if they were pulled by the hands and feet, they would drown. Just now, she felt that Zhou Shuming also wanted to pull her. Although she wasn't afraid, after all, she would have to expose her strength. That was something that Zhang Xiaohua didn't want to do. Zhang Xiaohua's left hand pulled Zhou Shuming. As usual, she slowly climbed up. After a while, she finally reached the top of the cliff. When she jumped up, she put Zhou Shuming down. This was a protruding platform. It was right in the middle of the clouds. In front of them, there was still a very tall mountain peak. When Zhou Shuming's feet touched the ground, his heart finally relaxed. With a face full of shame, he looked at Zhang Xiaohua and bowed. "Junior brother Ren, thank you for saving my life. This match is over. I have already lost." Okay. Zhang Xiaohua didn't decline. She also didn't modestly ask Zhou Shuming to compete with her again. Instead, she smiled and said, "It's best that senior brother Zhou can admit defeat. Senior brother shouldn't have agreed to such a dangerous cliff." Hearing this, Zhou Shuming was even more ashamed. He said, "Junior brother Ren, don't blame me. I saw that I couldn't shake you off, so I added it at the last minute. In the entire Tianmu Peak, I don't think anyone can climb up from this cliff." Then he pointed to the mountain path in the distance and said, "That's the real path up the mountain." Zhang Xiaohua looked and said, "Senior brother Zhou is really too mischievous." Then she flashed and rushed towards the mountain path, leaving behind a voice. "Senior brother Zhou, it's better if you follow me to the top of the mountain. Old consecrator Lei and the rest are still waiting up there." The word "behind" was emphasized. Zhou Shuming must have heard it clearly. Chapter 561. Zhou Shuming was a man of his word. As expected, he obediently followed behind Zhang Xiaohua on the mountain path. Well, actually, even if he wanted to overtake her, he couldn't. Thus, under the nervous anticipation of old consecrator Lei and the other disciples from the pill and grass divisions, Zhang Xiaohua was in front, and Zhou Shuming was behind her. One after the other, they rushed to the top of the mountain. Seeing Zhou Shuming fall behind, all the disciples shouted loudly, "Rise up, rise up!" Unfortunately, Zhou Shuming had a strange expression on his face when he heard the cheers. On the other hand, Zhang Xiaohua's blood seemed to be boiling. She exerted strength in her legs and quickly rushed to the scene. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua was the first to arrive, the cheers of "Rise up" immediately stopped. Even when Zhang Xiaohua stretched out her arms to signal, no one paid any attention to her. At this moment, Zhou Shuming also arrived. He bowed to the crowd and said, "Junior brothers, I am really sorry. I have let down everyone's expectations. In this competition of Qinggong, I have indeed lost to junior brother Ren. Please be my witness. Everyone's faces darkened. A disciple near old consecrator Lei even muttered softly, Great King Kong's Qinggong is #1 in Tianmu Peak. Could it be that he reached some kind of agreement with this Ren Xiaoyao on the way here? Did we not give Great King Kong enough benefits? Although these words were said softly, the quiet mountain peak could still hear them clearly. The eyes of several people also lit up, seemingly having the same feeling. Old consecrator Lei also nodded slightly and looked at Zhou Shuming. Zhou Shuming laughed bitterly and said in a clear voice, This Zhou swears that I did not make any deal with junior brother Ren. This competition is extremely fair. This Zhou's Qinggong is indeed not a match for junior brother Ren. Although Zhang Xiaohua saved Zhou Shuming just now, and Zhou Shuming also said that he would let Zhang Xiaohua go first, after all, it was the bet of thousands of disciples. Zhou Shuming did not dare to give up too much. Later, he used 80% of his strength to chase after Zhang Xiaohua. When he saw that he could not catch up, he used 90%. Finally, when he used 100% of his strength, Zhou Shuming still could not catch up with Zhang Xiaohua. Therefore, what Zhou Shuming said at this time was indeed true. Hearing Zhou Shuming's oath, old consecrator Lei could not help but say something. He chuckled and said, Martial nephew Zhou's words are a little too serious. Didn't the disciples ask you to replace them because they trust your Qinggong and your character? Since you came later than martial nephew Ren, this Qinggong competition is martial nephew Ren's victory. Alright, let's go down the mountain. I'm sure they're all waiting anxiously. Yes, they had been waiting impatiently. The disciples of Tianmu Peak's pill launching hall were all waiting quietly at the arena, eagerly waiting for old consecrator Lei and the dozen or so representatives to return. However, when they saw the representatives shaking their heads slightly from afar, they felt a chill in their hearts. Actually, people's hearts were strange. Although the bets placed by these pill launching hall disciples were not small, they were definitely not big either. Compared to the 3 Vajras, it could be said that they had lost to Zhang Xiaohua. However, when they thought that so many people were going to lose to Zhang Xiaohua and that Zhang Xiaohua could get so many elixirs all of a sudden, they felt unbalanced and did not want to take out even a single elixir. That was why they had asked Great Vajra Zhou Shuming to challenge Zhang Xiaohua on their behalf in order to reduce the cost of the elixirs. In the end, they went for wool and came home shorn. They even had to add another 20%. The 3 Vajras were even more depressed. Their 20% was equivalent to 10 taels of gold. However, since the Great Vajra could not win, they were naturally not a match either. This 20% was better than doubling it. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's victory, the Wei Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxu looked at Zhang Xiaohua was definitely not right. Is this still the newcomer who wanted to scheme against others' money a few days ago? Is this still the Grass Division disciple who wants to control them? Old consecrator Lei immediately announced the results of the competition. This time, the crowd did not make too much noise. After all, they had already accepted this result in their hearts. At this moment, a Pill Division disciple suddenly shouted, Junior Brother Ren, yesterday I heard that you allowed the Grass Division disciples to use medicinal herbs to exchange for elixirs, and even let them use medicinal herbs to exchange for your elixirs. By doing this, you're discriminating against our Pill Division. We demand the same treatment as the Grass Division. With a hua sound, the crowd all shouted, We're all disciples of Pill Expansion Hall. Why are the Grass Division and Pill Division treated differently? We demand fairness. We demand uniformity. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed. What's all this? They're giving me different treatment even when they're giving me things. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Chen Fengxiao say in a clear voice, Junior brothers, don't be anxious. I also heard Junior Brother Ren say this yesterday. However, he did not say that he would not give the Pill Division disciples this preferential treatment. It's just that Junior Brother Bai was there at that time, so he told him to inform the Grass Division disciples. The Pill Division disciples are also disciples of our Pill Expansion Hall. We share the same roots, so how could he not say anything? Don't you think so, Junior Brother Ren? Chen Fengxiao gave Zhang Xiaohua a look, hinting for him to cover up the lie. However, Zhang Xiaohua's intention was exactly like that, so there was no need for him to do so. His expression did not change as he said without skipping a beat, Headmaster Chen is right. I originally wanted to inform all of my brothers on Tianmu Peak. However, I've just arrived on Tianmu Peak and am completely blind, so I could only ask Senior Brother Bai to inform the grass division. Since everyone has mentioned this, then I'll ask everyone to go back and gather the herbs. Oh right, there's no need to give me the herbs that we've already planted on Tianmu Peak. Ha ha ha. Everyone roared with laughter. A few disciples of the pill division said loudly, Junior Brother Ren, don't worry. Your grass division has lost many herbs to our pill division over the years. Let's not talk about 10-years-old herbs. We even have many 20 or 30-years-old herbs. I'm just afraid that you won't have enough pills. Senior Brother's words are correct. Exchanging herbs for pills is a losing trade for me. The exchange rate will still be decided by me. Of course, it will not exceed the previous exchange rate. I'll ask Senior Brother Bai Huan and Senior Brother Chiu Wei Chung to help me settle this. Oh right, although I've won many pills this time, there are also many senior brothers who want to exchange for herbs. This is not an easy matter to settle. At this point, Xianxia scratched his head. Some of the smarter disciples couldn't help but look around cautiously when they heard this. They hurriedly slipped away. Just as a few of them left, the people behind them immediately realized what was going on and ran after them. Their escape became a secret that everyone knew. Who would want to waste their time here with you? This was the first time that Tianmu Peak had encountered such a good deal of exchanging medicinal herbs for pills. Who knew if there would be another shop like this in the future? Seeing this situation, Zhang Xiaohua was dumbfounded. He had underestimated the use of pills. Pills were like gold and silver in Chuanxiang cult. But what about herbs? Well, it was just medicinal herbs. But Tianmu Peak, or perhaps Xuanxiang cult, was not lacking in medicinal herbs. Zhang Xiaohua was exchanging medicinal herbs for medicinal herbs. It was the same as exchanging gold and silver for straw in the mortal world. Who wouldn't be willing? Chen Feng and Wu Zhouxiu looked at the disciples who had scattered and couldn't help but smile bitterly. To be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that Zhang Xiaohua didn't have any pills that caught their eye, even they would want to exchange for herbs. Who wouldn't want to take advantage of the situation? Chen Feng looked at the sky and smiled. Little brother, why aren't you going back? There will be many disciples looking for you in a while. You have to make arrangements. Zhang Xiaohua scratched his head and said, I didn't think that these senior brothers would be so enthusiastic. It seems that the door to the small courtyard can't be maintained. Ha ha ha. Wu Zhouxiu also laughed heartily. He was the biggest loser of this bet, and had been in a rather gloomy mood. Now, Zhang Xiaohua's witty words had made him happy. Thus he tugged on Chen Fengxiao's sleeve and said, Let's go, Headmaster Chen. Let's go hold the line for Junior Brother Ren. Otherwise, although his martial arts are powerful, with this group of junior brothers swarming him, even if Junior Brother Ren had 3 heads and 6 arms, he wouldn't be able to handle it all. Chen Feng smiled and nodded. That's what I was thinking. Let's go and help him. Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed and cupped his hands. Many thanks to the 2 heads. Wu Zhouxiu said, It's no problem. Even though we are part of the pill and grass divisions in name, we are all disciples of Tua Dan Hall. Saying this, Chiu Wei Cheng led the way and the 4 of them returned to the small courtyard where Zhang Xiaohua was temporarily staying. Sure enough, after a short while, all the disciples swarmed in, surrounding the small door of the small courtyard so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Fortunately, there were 2 first masters keeping watch, so there was no trouble. All the disciples lined up in a long line and entered one by one. In the courtyard, Bai Huan was holding the record of the bet. Based on the names of the disciples in the line, she compared the pills in the record with the medicinal herbs in her hands. At the beginning, Zhang Xiaohua was still standing there, opening the jade boxes one by one to take a look. However, later on, he realized that the disciples were much more familiar with exchanging medicinal herbs for pills. The medicinal herbs and the pills they took were very appropriate. Therefore, other than the ones that were especially old or unknown, he only took a look at them. However, even so, the queue was still very long. Later, under Chen Fengxiao's suggestion, among the disciples who had cashed in their bets, more than a dozen older and steady disciples were found. They also took out a few records from Bai Huan's hands and helped to cash in their bets. The crowd gathered firewood and worked until the night, when the full moon hung high in the sky. Only then did they cash in all the bets that the disciples owed Zhang Xiaohua. At this time, in the small courtyard, there was already a small mountain of jade boxes. Even Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxu were surprised to see this. When the last disciple handed over the jade box, Bai Huan crossed off the disciple's name from the paper. Only then did he let out a long sigh. Looking at the herbs in the jade box, he placed them in a pile of jade boxes. He raised his head and said to Xianxia, who was smiling to the side, "Junior brother Ren, this pile of herbs are all 10 years old. I can't differentiate the specific herbs. You can sort them out yourself in the future." Then he pointed to the other 2 piles and said, "These are 20 to 30 years old. And the small pile at the side is 40 years old and unknown herbs. You can take a look." Chapter 562. Don't worry, Zhang Xiaohua smiled and waved his hand. "Senior Bai and the other senior brothers are here to help. How can I not be at ease? Moreover, I have confidence in the quality of our Tianmu Peak's disciples. Oh right, there's also Headmaster Chen and Wu Dalong. Who would be looking for trouble here?" All right, since that's the case, the disciples have finished handing over their bets. Junior brother, please accept these records. As he spoke, Bai Huan handed over the records in his hands and the others' hands to Zhang Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohua took it with a smile and put it in his arms, saying, "It's all in the past, why bother?" That's right, with the jade boxes piled up like a small mountain in front of him, who would care about what was written in the account book? If it wasn't too eye-catching, Zhang Xiaohua almost wanted to tear the records into pieces and throw them into the air, letting them dance like snowflakes to show his joy. Chen Fengxiao saw that Zhang Xiaohua wasn't as ecstatic as he imagined, and his heart jumped. Although Zhang Xiaohua had said earlier that he didn't care about the position of headmaster of Tianmu Peak, he couldn't let his guard down. He turned to Wu Zhouxu, who was also deep in thought, and said, "Dalong, I think you should also urge the Vajras to hand over their bets. Quickly hand over the pills worth 150 taels of gold." At the mention of the word gold, Wu Zhouxu's heart ached for no reason, and he said awkwardly, "This is not a small number. Although they also have extra pills, it may be beyond their ability to take out so much at once. They still have to rely on me to support them." Zhang Xiaohua heard Wu Zhouxu's words and naturally knew what he meant. He said, "Don't worry, Wu Dang. If there aren't enough pills, can't we use herbs to replace them?" Wu Zhouxu shook his head. Junior brother Ren just came to Tianmu Peak and doesn't know much about the market. Herbs aren't popular. Even if they're old, they can't compare to pills. The 10 Vajras in my hands are all masters of stockpiling pills. Where would they keep any herbs? It's impossible for each of them to take out a Yuhuandan pill. Then, he glanced at Chen Fengxiao and said, "Just now, I saw that junior brother Ren even wanted some inconspicuous herbs. It just so happens that I have a batch of herbs that are about 40 years old. The disciples and consecrators of our pill repository hall don't know what they are." "You," before Wu Dalong could finish his sentence, Chen Fengxiao interrupted. If Wu Dalong hadn't mentioned it, I would have almost forgotten about it. Is it the batch of herbs that my grass division disciples collected during the Orchid Dusk refinement? Quiet Orchid Twilight refinement? Zhang Xiaohua frowned as she heard this name again. Wu Zhouxu smiled and said, "Head Chen, it's that batch of medicinal herbs. However, a few years ago, you lost the medicinal pills to my pill department. Now, it belongs to our pill department. Although that batch of herbs is not young, we don't know their uses. Even the consecrators of our pill repository hall don't recognize them. That's why they left them at Tianmu Peak for us to deal with. Although my grass division lost to you, it's not worth 150 taels of gold." When did I say that this batch of unknown herbs is worth 150 taels of gold? To be honest, your grass division is really something. Once you don't have any medicinal pills, you use herbs as compensation. You're like this, and your disciples are also like this. Do you know how many medicinal herbs you've given us in exchange for pills over the past 10 years? This? Chen Fengxiao was extremely embarrassed. Moreover, don't you see these herbs in front of you? You can say that they're all in the hands of your grass division. Where do you think our pill department got these herbs from? Chen Fengxiao still touched his chin and didn't speak. Wu Zhouxu continued to make things difficult. Moreover, the 10 great guardian deities want a lot of herbs from you, but they don't want to keep them. What do you think we should do? Without waiting for Chen Fengxiao to say anything, or perhaps he didn't expect him to say anything, Wu Zhouxiu continued, these herbs can only be held in my hands. How much do you think I've accumulated over the years? Then he pointed to the piles of jade boxes and said, more than this, not less. Zhang Xiaohua's eyes lit up. However, he didn't reply. He knew that Wu Zhouxiu naturally had his reasons for saying so much. If he hastily replied, he would lose the initiative. Chen Fengxiao looked at Zhang Xiaohua and didn't say anything. He smiled and said, Wu Dalong, isn't this just right? I thought that the heavens sent junior brother Ren to help me, but who would have thought that it was to solve your big problem? Didn't junior brother Ren say that as long as it's herbs, it's fine? Unknown herbs can also be used as compensation for pills. Haha, I've made the decision. Let's do it this way. That batch of herbs that our grass division gave you will be calculated according to the amount of pills we gave you in the past. The ones in your hands will also be calculated according to this amount. What do you think? Wu Zhouxiu spoke until his mouth was dry. Didn't he just want such a promise? Seeing this, he was overjoyed and said, if junior brother Ren doesn't have any objections, then I'll let the disciples call the herbs and the 3 vajras over? Zhang Xiaohua nodded. Since Headmaster Chen has said so, how can I not agree? Chen Fengxiao suddenly said, Wu Dalong, the bet between our 2 clans still needs to be settled with pills. I don't want those herbs. Wu Zhouxiu looked at Chen Fengxiao and said with narrowed eyes, if junior brother Ren didn't want these herbs, I really want to use these herbs as compensation for your pills. However, since junior brother Ren needs them, even if you want them, I don't have any extra. Then he turned his head and asked, junior brother Ren, senior brother is a little curious. What do you want these herbs for? Ordinary herbs are fine, but these unknown herbs are completely useless. Don't tell me you want to refine pills? When these words were said, Chen Fengxiao's eyelids couldn't help but twitch. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, Sai Wu Dalong, you don't know. When I was talking to senior brother Bai about the herbs, I felt that it was too eye-catching to have so many pills in my hands. I'm a disciple of the grass division, so it shouldn't be a problem to have a few more herbs. Moreover, I've just arrived at Tianmu Peak. Using pills to exchange for herbs can be considered as contributing to the grass division brothers and gaining popularity. Then, he smiled bitterly. But I didn't think that the senior brothers of the pill division would also want to exchange. Do you think I should exchange or not? Actually, these herbs of yours, I don't want to exchange them. What do I want these herbs for? I don't know how to refine pills. Then, he said with a crying face, why don't you empathize with me a little and use pills to repay the 150 taels of gold? Wu Zhouxiu raised his head and said, the moon is already high up in the sky. It's really not early anymore. Junior brother Ren, you should rest early. I'll get someone to send the herbs over tomorrow morning. You don't have to look carefully at these piles of herbs. I can guarantee that the disciples of Tianmu Peak don't have any more herbs. Actually, no one is interested in your herbs. After saying that, he didn't bid farewell to Zhang Xiaohua and Chen Fengxiao and walked away. He was afraid that Zhang Xiaohua would regret telling him about the herbs and pills. When Wu Zhouxiu walked out of the small courtyard, Chen Fengxiao also laughed loudly and cupped his hands. Little brother, rest early. Tomorrow, you'll have enough energy to exchange the herbs of the pill division. Ha ha ha, it's been a long time since I've been so happy. Today, I actually saw Wu Dalong suffer again. Chen Fengxiao led by Huan and the rest out of the small courtyard. The courtyard that had been bustling for the entire afternoon finally regained its silence. Zhang Xiaohua walked them to the door of the small courtyard and watched them leave before closing the door. Looking at the mountain of jade boxes, he smiled bitterly and was happy at the same time. He smiled bitterly because he really intended to keep a low profile and calm. He didn't expect to make such a big move. Although these herbs were like weeds, but if they were all concentrated in one person's hands, then there would be problems. Didn't Wu Zhouxiu also sound him out just now? Presumably, Chen Fengxiao also knew that he wanted to refine pills. It was just that it involved his interests, so he didn't say it out loud. Did he know how to refine pills? Maybe he did. What made Zhang Xiaohua pleasantly surprised was that not only the mountain of herbs, Even the jade boxes seemed to be worth more than 100 taels of gold. He didn't sweat in these 3 battles for nothing. But, how should he take away these herbs and jade boxes? The space in the money bag was filled with those jade coffin lids. Alas, there would actually be a day where he would be troubled by too many valuable things. This was something that the money grubber Xianxia had never thought of. Forget it, I'll just pile them here first. In any case, they're worthless goods in their eyes. As for the herbs, I'll just have to wait until I have time to refine them into pills in the future. Anyway, there are still many jade bottles in the money bag. They're probably used to store pills. As for the jade boxes, they can't be wasted. When I refine pills, I'll casually refine them and sell them for a good price. When he finished thinking, he saw that it was indeed not early. Xianxia didn't dare to be negligent. He struck out the jade talisman, set up a restriction, and began cultivating the Carefree Heart Sutra. Spreading Incense Cult, White Mountain Peak, 100 Herb Hall. An old man with a purplish-red face and a bald head, leaving only a ring of white hair around him, lazily sat on the chair in the middle. Although this old man's hair was already white, his face was abnormally fair and tender. Only the deep crow's feet at the corner of his eyes revealed his age. He was the pill-spreading hall's hallmaster, Elder Zi Shen. Standing respectfully below the hall was Yang Yao. At this moment, Elder Zi Shen was frowning and scratching his smooth forehead with his hand. No one knew what he was worried about. Yang Yao looked carefully from below the hall and asked tentatively, "Hallmaster, you've been gone for several days. Why did you come back so soon?" Sigh. Elder Zi Shen sighed and said, "These are all miscellaneous matters of the sect. There's no need for our pill-spreading hall to worry about them. It's just that the matter of First Faith Peak seems to have caused the sect leader to scratch his head. He seems to be blaming us." Sigh, what does this have to do with us? It's just that the Misty Hall doesn't care about us because they're close to the sect leader. What can we do? First Faith Peak. This lowly one has always known that they don't get along with the other halls. There's often friction. We're only in charge of medicinal herbs and pills. It shouldn't have anything to do with them, right? Sigh, you don't know. They're also. Forget it. Why am I telling you this? I'll think of a way to reply to the sect leader first. Right, how did your trip to Rejuvenation Valley go this time? Chapter 563. When Yang Yao heard this, he smiled and said, "I was just about to report to Hallmaster. Look, what do you think this is?" After he finished speaking, he took out the jade box from his bosom and respectfully handed it over. Old man Zi Shen received it and casually opened it. A trace of surprise flashed in his eyes as he said, "What's the meaning of this, Commander Nye? The last few times I asked him for it, he always refused. Why did he take the initiative to give it to me this time? Something must have happened." When Yang Yao heard this, he broke out in a cold sweat and hurriedly bowed. "Hallmaster, please calm down. This lowly one is merely taking into account the many years of relationship between Rejuvenation Valley and the Fragrant Cult. Moreover, that Marshal Nye is also very familiar with our pill-expanding hall. He has always given us a lot of gifts, but he has never spoken." "That's it? You agree just like that?" Old man Purple Herb stared at Yang Yao and asked, "This?" "I saw that he took out this daylily grass, and I also remembered that the hallmaster had asked for it many times. Thinking that there was no harm in it, I agreed." Elder Violet Herb glanced at the carefree grass and said, "Although this herb is rare, it doesn't have much use in reality. It's only used to refine pills. Do you think Rejuvenation Valley has this ability? When the time comes, won't he still be sent to our fragrant religion? He wants us to refine it for him? I'm just telling him so that he can send the herbs over when he finds out." What about you?" "This lowly one." Yang Yao didn't dare to hide anything from Elder Sage and told him about how Vice Hallmaster Su had taken the short sword. Taking advantage of the situation, he said, "Hallmaster, you also know that Chen Fengxiao has always made things difficult for Rejuvenation Valley. Normal medicine apprentices will lose a layer of skin when they go to him. Although this Ren Xiaoyao knows a bit of martial arts, he's still no match for Chen Fengxiao. Moreover, he has 5 or 6 ahats under him. He'll definitely be at a disadvantage. Elder, You should quickly transfer Ren Xiaoyao back to White Mountain Peak. Old Man Purple Herb didn't answer. He only said, I knew you wouldn't do things for him for free. You're also a sentimental person. You only have one friend in the martial world, Commander Nye, and you'll never see him again. It's understandable that you're soft-hearted. Hearing this, Xianxia was overjoyed and said, Many thanks for Hallmaster's understanding. Haha, understanding is one thing. You disregarded the rules of the sect and took unqualified medicine apprentices from the Rejuvenation Valley into the fragrant cult without permission. You still have to bear this crime. Yang Yao's face was ashen as he said, Yes, please punish me, Hallmaster. Originally, I wanted to arrange a good position for you to make up for your hard work all these years. Since you've made a mistake, you should make up for it with good deeds. You don't have to take this position. Yang Yao was somewhat delighted. Many thanks for Hallmaster's benevolence. As expected, you're fair in your rewards and punishments. Old Man Purple Herb snorted through his nose. Even Vice Hallmaster Su knows about it. If I still don't reward and punish clearly, how will I explain it to the sect? You should be careful in your work and observe the consequences. However, Yang Yao was overjoyed and said, I won't dare to be so muddle-headed again. Sigh, at that time, I saw how worried Commander Nye was for his daughter, so I had the heart to lick her and agreed easily. He's no different from a normal medicine apprentice. You only need to let people keep a close eye on him. This Xiao Yao is not easy to hide. From your description, I can tell that he's not a real medicine apprentice. Although Vice Hallmaster Su doesn't have good intentions, it's exactly what I want. Who would know that he's a medicine apprentice sent by the Rejuvenation Valley if I threw him far away at Tianmu Peak? Even if someone knew, this information would only be passed back to Baiyu Peak. No one else would know. After 2 years, I'll let him come back. Won't everything become natural then? But, isn't there still Chen Fengxiao at Tianmu Peak? Old Man Purple Herb waved his hand. Didn't you say that Commander Nye still wants him to break through the outer sect and leave the fragrant cult? It's a good opportunity for him to temper himself under Chen Fengxiao and help him grow. Besides, Vice Hallmaster Su just sent him to Tianmu Peak. Do you think it's appropriate for me to send him back to Baiyu Peak? Hallmaster is wise. This lowly one is slow-witted and didn't think of this. Since Vice Hallmaster Su knows about it and didn't make it clear, I don't think he will mention it again in the future. After a year and a half, the disciples will have grown taller and no one will know about it. This matter will be over. Yes, it's better to be safe than sorry. You have to send someone to keep an eye on them. Don't make any mistakes. Report to me immediately if there are any abnormalities. Yes, this lowly one will be careful. You should rest early. AI rest. I still have other things to do. Go out and say that if there's nothing important, don't come in and disturb me. Yes, this lowly one will take his leave. Yang Yao bowed and slowly retreated. A disciple was standing at the door in a hurry. When he saw Yang Yao come out, he was about to enter when Yang Yao stopped him. Hallmaster said that if there's nothing important, don't go in and disturb him. Is your matter very important? This. The disciple hesitated. It's nothing important. It's just some movements of the disciples outside. Then you can choose whether to go in or not. After speaking, Yang Yao also turned and left. Only now did he truly feel at ease. The matter of Rejuvenation Valley was truly over. It was just that the divine weapon in his hands was gone. But it was also good. If it wasn't for the fact that the Hallmaster didn't think that he had gained any benefits, he would have been punished long ago. As long as he had that good position, there was still hope in the future. As long as he hugged the Hallmaster's thigh, there shouldn't be any problems. Yang Yao left happily, still thinking about the 100-flower wine in the house. The disciple standing in front of the 100-herb hall hesitated for a while, but still turned and went back to rest. It was just a trivial matter. It was just some miscellaneous matters regarding the gambling fight on Tianmu Peak. It really wasn't important at all. At the same time, in an exquisite little house, Vice Hallmaster Su was sipping tea. A disciple stood respectfully to the side, wiping the sweat on his head from time to time and saying something. Suddenly, Vice Hallmaster Su was startled. He interrupted that person and asked, "What? You're saying that Ren Xiaoyao has a golden leaf in his bag? How much? I'm not sure either. Senior brother Chung grabbed a handful. He said it was 50 taels. I think there should be at least 500 taels in there? Good. This Ren Xiaoyao is really something. Continue. Thus, that disciple recounted everything that had happened after Zhang Xiaohua had arrived at Tianmu Peak. Vice Hall Master Su nodded as he listened. This Ren Xiaoyao is really straightforward. He even dares to talk back to his senior brother. However, his luck is not bad. He just happened to meet Chen Fengxiao, who was scheming against Wu Zhou ruins. Otherwise, he would have been taken care of by the others. Hall Master Su, this Ren Xiaoyao even beat Zhou Shuming. He's the best disciple in our Dan department. How can I not know what kind of martial arts Zhou Shuming has? Didn't you just say that the two of them were only competing in Qinggong? With Zhou Shuming's Qinggong, he could only show it off at Tianmu Peak. For Ren Xiaoyao to beat him by a distance, it would be very normal. However, what does he mean by exchanging elixirs for medicinal herbs? Dalong doesn't understand no matter how he thinks about it. If it's not alchemy, then it's the reason he said it. It was a slip of the tongue and there's no way to take it back. Alchemy? Vice Hall Master Su sneered. He's just a medicine boy from Rejuvenation Valley. Don't you know what Rejuvenation Valley is like? It's just a place that provides us medicine boys. Every time, they send some medicinal herbs for our Dan department's consecrators to help refine. What kind of elixirs can a mere medicine boy from Rejuvenation Valley refine? He just arrived at Tianmu Peak and didn't know the use of elixirs. He wanted to use elixirs to win people's hearts. Now that the elixirs have been exchanged for a bunch of useless medicinal herbs, let's see how he can win people's hearts. Hall Master is wise. Dalong seems to have said the same thing. However, he's not sure. Yes, of course he's not sure. He just found out about Ren Xiaoyao's background. Oh right, let Wu Zhoushu keep a close eye on Ren Xiaoyao. This 500 taels of gold leaf is a very good thing. I haven't seen such an attractive yellow and white item in a long time. That's what Dalong planned to do. He wanted to win the gold leaf to show his filial piety to you, but who knew? It's all right. I appreciate Wu Zhoushu's intentions. However, he's really stupid. How could he fall into Chen Fengxiao's trap? Wasn't it always him who schemed against Chen Fengxiao? Dalong must have been careless. He's always suppressed Chen Fengxiao on Tianmu Peak. All right, he's already lost. We'll get it back in the future. Let him keep a close eye on him. If there's a chance, he'll get that burden. Yes, I'll definitely report to Wu Dalong. In addition, as long as you leak a little information to Ren Xiaoyao, he'll definitely send the gold leaf to Hall Master. Bullshit, Vice Hall Master Su scolded. What do you know? If that's the case, why would I tell you? You only need to tell Wu Zhoushu what I said. Yes, I know. I wouldn't dare. The disciple was so scared that he quickly apologized. Oh right, when you came to White U Peak, was our White U Peak's messenger in front or behind you? He was in front of me. I was afraid of attracting his attention, so I deliberately slowed down. He must have reported to Hall Master by now. Vice Hall Master Su nodded. The disciple also seemed to be thinking about something. After a while the disciple said, Dalong also said that the Orchid Evening Refinement is about to begin. What's Hall Master's plan? Vice Hall Master Su's eyes lit up when he heard this. He immediately waved his hand and said, There's still a few months left. What's the hurry? Besides, the disciples of the pill department can't enter. Could it be that he has some ideas? Please cast a monthly vote and a recommendation vote. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 564. The disciple bowed and said, About this, Dalong didn't tell me. But in my opinion, this Orchid Evening Refinement is held once every 5 years and has long become a custom. Dalong may not have any ideas of his own. Deputy Hall Master Su snorted. Since he doesn't have any ideas of his own, Then just wait for the hallmaster's arrangement. Although the list is drawn up by me, doesn't the hallmaster still have to look through it? Our pill-expanding hall people are only there to pick herbs. What can we achieve? The disciple smiled apologetically. This list has always been drawn up by the hallmaster, but since 15 years ago, Hallmaster Su was entrusted to handle this matter. Moreover, the hallmaster is now old and many of the hall's affairs have to be entrusted to Hallmaster Su. Dalong thinks that this year, you should still be in charge of this matter? Deputy Hallmaster Su tilted his head. Did Wu Zhou Su tell you this? No, but what Dalong usually says and what I usually see is more or less like this. Humph, you are well behaved. But this kind of thing can't be said. Just do your job well and I will naturally take note of it. Thank you for your guidance, Hallmaster. The disciple was overjoyed and bowed to express his gratitude. Well, rest early. Go back early tomorrow morning and let Wu Zhou Su keep an eye on this Ren Xiaoyao. Yes, I will follow Hallmaster's orders. Far away, Xianxia, who was cultivating the Carefree Heart Sutra with his eyes closed in a small courtyard on Heaven Eye Peak, did not know that his every move had already been noticed by the two hallmasters. It was even to the extent that someone was already thinking about his treasure. Wu Zhou Su was also a man of his word. Early the next morning, he sent Yi Chengliao, Qi Yuntian and Cheng Shi to bring over a batch of jade boxes. Zhang Xiaohua did not know if the herbs inside were worth his 150 taels of gold, but he already knew that Wu Zhou Su would not be shortchanged at this point. Thus, he quickly signed on a piece of white paper. After sending them off, he happily looked at the herbs in the courtyard. The more he looked, the more he wanted to see them. At this time, he saw Bai Huan enter the courtyard with a gloomy look on his face. Zhang Xiaohua frowned and asked curiously, Senior Bai, what are you doing? Are you going to move in too? Sigh, that's right. Bai Huan sighed. Junior brother Ren, I was woken up by senior brother Chiu early in the morning. He said that it was Headmaster Chen's idea. Your place is too remote, and it's not good to leave so many herbs unattended. Also, this courtyard needs to be cleaned. Yes, you're now the rising star of our grass division, and the victory of the bet will all depend on you. You're still young, and you can't be left alone So, you sent senior brother Bai here? Zhang Xiaohua asked with a smile. Exactly. Bai Huan took the bedding into the house and looked up at the bamboo forest outside the yard. She looked very uneasy and whispered, Is it quiet in this yard at night? Quiet, of course it's quiet. There's only the sound of the wind blowing through the bamboo forest. It seems like someone is crying. Zhang Xiaohua said gloomily. I see. Junior brother Ren, aren't you afraid? Bai Huan asked with a trembling voice. Of course I'm afraid. I'm afraid that someone will suddenly knock on the door. At this moment, someone suddenly knocked on the door. Aya. Although it was broad daylight, Bai Huan almost jumped up. She hid behind Zhang Xiaohua and said, Could it be that there's really a ghost? Before she finished speaking, a voice came from the door of the courtyard. Is junior brother Ren of the grass division here? Zhang Xiaohua said loudly. This is the place. Please come in. The courtyard door was pushed open, and a strong man with a beard walked in. Bai Huan, who was hiding behind Zhang Xiaohua, poked her head out. Seeing that it was a living person, she forced herself to say, Are you senior fellow apprentice Liao of the Dan department? Aya, junior brother Bai is also here? That's me. Then he cupped his hands and said, I came here in a hurry. Please forgive me. Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. We're all brothers. Why are you so polite? What's the matter, senior brother Liao? I heard that junior brother Ren can use herbs to exchange for pills. Is that true? Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, There is indeed such a thing. It's just that these past few days, the senior brothers have lost to this junior brother. They all used herbs to exchange for pills. This junior brother doesn't have many pills, so even if I want to exchange with senior brother Liao, I can't. Senior brother Liao said with a smile, I went down the mountain to do some business. When I came back, I heard that junior brother Ren was killing people everywhere. Congratulations. It's nothing. It's just luck. Senior brother Liao, please don't laugh. Junior brother Ren, you don't have to be so polite. I heard that even the eldest brother of the pill division lost to you a few bottles of pills. I don't want more. Can I exchange a few bone-solidifying pills? Well, Xianxia was a little embarrassed. He didn't have many bone-solidifying pills in his hand, and he just exchanged 3-4 by Huan. Although he didn't like bone-solidifying pills, he still wanted to keep a few for research. When senior brother Liao saw that Xianxia was in a difficult position, he took out 2 jade boxes from his bosom and handed them over. I know I've made things difficult for junior brother Ren, but can you take a look at the age of these 2 medicinal herbs? If it's possible, please give me a few. Seeing that senior brother Liao was so confident, Xianxia knew that there were good things in these jade boxes. Sure enough, when he opened the jade boxes, there were 2 40-year-old unknown herbs. Before Xianxia could speak, Bai Huan smiled and said, "Senior brother Liao is so calculating. Although these 2 herbs are old, they don't have any use. How can junior brother Ren agree?" Senior brother Liao frowned and said, "I heard that junior brother Ren only cares about the age of the herbs. He doesn't care about the herbs. But if it's other herbs, I don't have them here." Speaking of this, his eyes lit up and he eagerly said, "If I know where to pick herbs that are old enough, I can tell junior brother Ren the location. Will junior brother Ren be willing to part with them?" "Don't. Junior brother Ren, there are many places in the 18 peaks of the fragrant religion that can produce mature herbs. But those places are not places that ordinary disciples like us can go. Even if you know where they are, you may not be able to pick them. Junior brother Bai doesn't know. If junior brother Ren is fated to go to the place I mentioned, he will definitely be able to go there. Moreover, there are many herbs there. They are very old and most of them are unknown. This is something I accidentally learned many years ago. I can basically guarantee that other than me, there shouldn't be many people who know about it." Xianxia was interested when she heard this. What did he want? Wasn't it just some unknown herbs? They were old enough. Even if he used the Yuhuandan pill to exchange, Xianxia would still be happy. So she asked, "Since senior brother Liao is in such a hurry, then junior brother will not care whether he is fated or not. These 2 herbs and your information can be exchanged for 3-inch bone congealing pills. What do you think?" Senior brother Liao was overjoyed and said, "This Liao thought that 2 pills would be enough." Junior brother Ren actually agreed to 3 pills. This is really generous. Xianxia was stunned. She was already regretting it. She secretly said, "He is being generous again. Could it be that I am a sucker in the eyes of the Tianmu Peak disciples? Fine, when I have time, I must ask senior brother Bai about the market price of these pills. I don't want to be taken advantage of and ruin my reputation." However, she still said, "Senior brother Liao has worked hard for the whole. Junior brother feels that you have returned today and can't help but want to get closer to you. Senior brother Liao, please tell junior brother the news." "Haha, it's just official business. It can't be considered hard work. How can it be compared to junior brother's hard work?" Senior brother Liao said, but did not mention the place. Seeing this, Xianxia walked back into the house and took out a jade bottle. She handed it to senior brother Liao and said, "Senior brother, take a look. Is there anything inside?" Senior brother Liao opened the bottle and took a look. His face was overjoyed. He walked forward and whispered into Xianxia's ear for a long time. Xianxia's face was full of excitement. When he finished speaking, she smiled bitterly and said, "This is the place that senior brother Liao was talking about? Do you think I can go and pick it?" Senior brother Liao smiled and said, "This place is not an important place in the hall. As long as junior brother is fated to go there, you will definitely be able to pick it. I am not lying to you about this." Xianxia nodded. Senior brother Liao is right. As you said, junior brother has the chance to pick it. All right, the pills have been exchanged. Senior brother Liao, is there anything else? Seeing that Xianxia was sending him off, senior brother Liao did not stay any longer. He said a few words of thanks and walked away. Seeing that Xianxia was secretly at a disadvantage, Bai Huan muttered, "I knew that there are no good people in the pill department. I have not seen much of this senior brother Liao, so I did not know that his character was so bad." Junior brother Ren, where is the place that he mentioned? Zhang Xiaohua looked at Bai Huan with interest. She waved her hand and said, Senior brother Liao is right. It depends on my fate. He pointed this out early on, but unfortunately I did not understand. Then she looked at the 2 herbs in her hand and said, With these 2 herbs, it is not too bad to give him 3 pills. Herbs. Bai Huan snorted and said, They are worthless things. While they were talking, the door of the small courtyard was pushed open again. It was Chen Fengxiao and Qiu Wei Cheng who came in. Zhang Xiaohua and Bai Huan went forward and bowed. Chen Fengxiao looked at Bai Huan and said to Zhang Xiaohua with a smile, I saw that you have a lot of herbs here and the courtyard is big. No one is cleaning, so I asked Bai Huan to come and help you. Although there are many disciples in Tianmu Peak, Bai Huan is the first one you know. I hope you are satisfied with my arrangement. Humph. Zhang Xiaohua sneered in her heart. You are just worried about me. Do you think I would not know that you have more eyes and ears watching me? It would be strange if you didn't pay any attention to me. Zhang Xiaohua cupped her hands. Thank you for your concern, Headmaster Chen. I was just thinking about how to move this pile of herbs into the house. With Senior Brother Bai here, I can do other things. I will have to trouble Senior Brother Bai to move these herbs into the house. Move into the house? By myself? Bai Huan was stunned. Then, she looked at the few jade boxes that were as big as a small mountain. She smiled bitterly. How unlucky was she? Wasn't it just a few days ago when she was on duty and was the first one to see Ren Xiaoyao? Why? Chapter 565. What? Little brother still wants to do his own things? Chen Fengxiao was obviously stunned and asked. He did not expect Zhang Xiaohua to say such a thing. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, Leader Chen, have you forgotten? I told you a few days ago that I want to follow the rules of the grass division and find a few medicine fields at the peak of Tianmu Peak to take care of. Chen Fengxiao smiled bitterly and said, Little brother, you really know how to joke. Although there are many medicine fields at Tianmu Peak, there are even more disciples in the grass division. Little brother, you have good skills and can't waste them on the medicine fields. It's better to use them properly. Zhang Xiaohua said seriously, Leader Chen, I'm not joking. If not, I wouldn't have said so much to you a few days ago. I'm a medicine boy sent by Rejuvenation Valley. If I don't take care of the medicine fields properly, wouldn't the reputation of Rejuvenation Valley be tarnished? This. Chen Fengxiao did not know how to answer. He could only criticize in his heart, I've never seen anyone like you. Everyone else hides far away from the medicine fields, but you just have to go to the front of the medicine fields. A few days ago, I thought you were just being perfunctory. Who would have thought that you would really do it? Seeing Chen Fengxiao in a difficult position, Qiu Wei Cheng said softly, Leader Chen, aren't there a few medicine fields at the east of Tianmu Peak that can't germinate? Why don't you let junior brother Ren take care of it? Anyway, there's nothing to do and it's very relaxing. If leader needs anything, you can also let junior brother Ren come over in time. That's true. Although those fields can't germinate, they still need a disciple to take care of it. Although it's an easy job, the original disciples have already slacked off and complained that it's too far away. Junior brother Ren's Qinggong is not bad. It's a good choice. Chen Fengxiao nodded slightly. Is there a place to stay beside the medicine fields? Zhang Xiaohua asked again. Yes, there's a small house. Chen Fengxiao said and then asked in surprise, Junior brother Ren can't really be living on the peak, right? That's exactly what I was thinking, Zhang Xiaohua said resolutely. But, Chen Feng smiled and said 2 words, but he didn't continue persuading her. Zhang Xiaohua was far away from the rest of the disciples, so he was at ease. Hence, he looked at junior brother Ren and said, Then junior brother Bai will have to suffer and follow junior brother Ren to the summit of Tianmu Peak? There's only junior brother Ren there, so we're also worried. Don't you think so, junior brother Bai? Of course, that's how it should be. Junior brother Ren has been working hard in the herbal field, so I'm just going to give him some food and water. Junior brother Bai, you don't have to worry about such trivial matters. I'll arrange for someone to deliver food to you. You just have to look after the medicinal field and do your job well. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, That's good. If senior brother Bai delivers food every day, I can't afford it. Oh right, these medicinal herbs? Chen Fengxiao waved his hand and said, Little brother, don't worry. There aren't many people here, and the medicinal herbs aren't valuable. I'll inform the disciples of the grass department and Wu Dalong to inform the disciples of the pill department not to come to this small courtyard. Good. Zhang Xiaohua said 3 good words in a row and said, Now that everything here is settled, let's hurry up and go up the mountain. My job is to plant the medicine fields, and my hands are itching to do some work after not doing any work for a few days. Chen Fengxiao smiled bitterly and said, Little brother, you don't have to be so impatient. I came this time to see if the pills that the pill department lost to you have been delivered. I didn't plan to leave you at the peak. Zhang Xiaohua pointed to the jade box next to him and said, Wu Dalong sent someone to deliver it early in the morning. I didn't count it carefully, so it shouldn't be too bad. Well, since it's been delivered, I can rest assured. Little brother, this gambling fight can be considered to have ended satisfactorily. If you want to earn more, you'll have to wait for the next gambling fight. The next gambling fight. Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed. When will that be? Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's eagerness, Chen Fengxiao was secretly delighted. He said, There's no specific time interval between the gambling fights. Let's see if there's an opportunity. However, the pill department lost too badly this time, so they'll have to rest for a few days. Little brother, don't be impatient. Stay at Tianmu Peak for now. There'll be plenty of time for you to earn more medicinal pills. Okay. Zhang Xiaohua clapped his hands again. Then I'll have to trouble Headmaster Chen to help me settle the matter of staying at the peak. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua was urging him again, Chen Fengxiao could only say, Okay, let's go. Let's go to the peak of Tianmu Peak to see where little brother will settle down in the future. There was only one way to the top of the mountain. It was the small path that Zhou Shuming and Zhang Xiaohua had passed through when they competed in lightness skill. Halfway through, the path was divided into 2, leading to the east and west peaks respectively. Bai Huan led the way in front to the east. Qiu Wei Chang explained, Tianmu Peak is within the sphere of influence of the pill department. The pill department and the grass department have their own areas of operation. The west side of the peak belongs to the pill department. That's where they refine pills. Under normal circumstances, people from the grass department are not allowed to go there. Zhang Xiaohua frowned and said, Why are they refining pills at such a high place? Qiu Wei Chang said, Most of the areas of Tianmu Peak, such as the east, south and north, are used to grow herbs. Only the west side has many pill rooms from the bottom to the peak. The pill rooms at the top are used by a few old consecrators. Zhang Xiaohua asked again, When I was in Rejuvenation Valley, I saw disciples refining pills. They used earth fire. Could it be that there's earth fire on Tianmu Peak too? Chen Fengxiao shook his head and said, According to Wu Dalong's words, earth fire seems to be used. However, he doesn't know how there is earth fire at such a high place. Oh, our cult of fragrance has many strange things. Little brother, you'll get used to it slowly. Many strange things? Zhang Xiaohua was surprised. Little brother, you can walk around freely on Tianmu Peak. However, you must not go near the pill rooms of the consecrators on the west side. That is the rule of our pill department. If little brother is interested in refining pills, you can look for Wu Dalong in the future. Don't act on your own. Chen Fengxiao warned with a deeper meaning. As they spoke, they arrived at the east side of Tianmu Peak. Facing the warm sunshine, they could see that on the wide slope of the east side, there was a neat and tidy herbal field. However, this herbal field was the same as the one in Huanxi Mountain Manor. It was barren, without a single herb in sight. High up on the ridge of the field, in a flat area, there was an exquisite little house. It looked very elegant. Chen Feng smiled and pointed at the little house. That is where the disciples rest during the day. They also go down the mountain at night. In the future, it will be little brother and junior brother Bai's place to stay. Bai Huan's face was gloomy. Zhang Xiaohua looked at the blazing sun and the boundless white clouds below the peak. She smiled and said, This place is like a fairyland. Even if we live here for a lifetime, we won't be bored. Chen Fengxiao gave her a thumbs up. Little brother, good ambition, good realm. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and shook her head. She pointed to the medicine field and asked, Headmaster Chen, are these the non-germinating herbs? Are you sure there are seeds in this medicine field? Chen Fengxiao laughed and said, the medicine field on the east side was personally brought by the inner disciples of Lingering Fragrance Peak. I personally planted the seeds in the field. How can I not be sure? Then how can they not germinate? This is the first time I've seen such a strange thing. Zhang Xiaohua deliberately asked. Who knows? Anyway, every few years, the inner disciples will bring a batch of non-germinating seeds and plant them here. Since they won't germinate, where did the seeds come from? Well, if the inner disciples don't say it, we can only guess. We can't take it seriously. Zhang Xiaohua was about to continue asking when she saw several disciples walking lazily on the mountain path. When they saw Chen Fengxiao and the others, they were very surprised. They quickly ran over and saluted. We didn't know Headmaster Chen was coming today. Sorry for not going out to meet you. Seeing the somewhat panicked expressions of the disciples and the weird welcome, Chen Fengxiao waved his hand and said, What time is it now? You all just arrived? One of the disciples smiled and said, Headmaster Chen is wise. These medicine fields are just weeding and watering. It's no big deal whether it's morning or evening. So we can't help but slack off a little. Moreover, this place is very far from our residence. No need to say more. You all go and tidy up and empty the hut. From now on, you don't need to look after this place. Just hand it over to Junior Brother Ran and Junior Brother Bai. If you have anything to do, quickly tell me. Then, he turned to Zhang Xiaohua and said, Little brother, familiarize yourself with the environment first. I'll come back in a few days to talk to you in detail. Then, he brought Qiu Wei Cheng down the peak. The disciples who were looking after the medicine fields were caught slacking off by Chen Fengxiao. They thought that they would be punished, but after hearing Chen Fengxiao's instructions, their faces were full of joy. Although the medicine fields were easy, they had to go up and down the peak every day. It was very tiring and they had long complained. Now that they were so happy that they didn't have to climb the mountain path anymore, they were very happy. After seeing Chen Fengxiao leave, they pulled Zhang Xiaohua and Bai Huan's sleeves and roughly walked around the medicine fields. They also told them all the things to take note of. Then they quickly went into the hut, packed up their things, and happily went down Tianmu Peak. Only Zhang Xiaohua was left standing under the sun with a faint smile on her face as she looked at the bare medicine fields. Bai Huan stood in front of the empty hut with a bitter face. No one knew what she was thinking. After a while, Zhang Xiaohua said, Senior Brother Bai, if you don't want to stay on the peak, you can go back first. When I have time, I'll talk to Headmaster Chen. Bai Huan immediately waved her hand and said, No, I'm just not used to it. Junior Brother Ren, stay here. I'll go and bring your bedding up. However, Zhang Xiaohua said, No need. You can bring your things up first. I'll walk around. When I have time later, I'll take it myself. All right then. Junior Brother Ren, don't go too far. You can't go to the west side. If the consecrators of the pill department see you, they will inevitably punish you. I know. You can go about your business. Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand and went straight to the peak. Chapter 566. The peak of Tianmu Peak was a huge platform. There were many strange stones placed haphazardly on it. There were also a few huge ancient trees with their flourishing canopies covering most of the platform. Zhang Xiaohua came to the platform and spread out her divine sense. Seeing that there was no one around, she immediately jumped up and stood on top of the canopy. Tianmu Peak was surrounded by a sea of clouds. Only the peak of Tianmu Peak could be seen. It was like a small island in the middle of the sea. Faintly, in the distance, there were a few dark shadows of islands. They must be the peaks of the other peaks. Jiaga, a few clear cries could be heard. A few white cranes flew through the sea of clouds, stirring up some dust. They circled above the clouds a few times before diving back down and disappearing without a trace. In the east of the sky, a huge sun shone its golden light on the sea of clouds. The mountain wind blew, the sea of clouds rolled, and golden snakes danced wildly. Zhang Xiaohua was a little dazed at the sight. This must be a paradise. After being intoxicated for a while, Xianxia sighed and thought to herself, although it is like a paradise, it is still a foreign place. It is not a place for me to stay. Moreover, the beautiful scenery is just a facade. The people's hearts are not what they used to be. I wonder where the paradise is? Then, without hesitation, she released her divine sense and jumped to the west. The west side was where the alchemists of the pill department lived. There were not many herbs planted there. Although the slope was not steep, all kinds of trees were thick and tall. There were also many herbs and weeds on the ground. It looked like they were not taken care of. While walking, she heard footsteps. Xianxia looked left and right, then jumped onto a big tree and hid among the thick branches. After a while, 2 disciples walked past from the left. The disciples of the pill department were dressed in the same way as the disciples of the grass department. Xianxia could not tell if they were disciples of the pill department. She heard the person on the left say, "We lost a lot in this bet. In order to get some points, we bet a lot of elixirs. Who would have thought that something that was guaranteed would go wrong in the end?" "That's right, I'm the same." "Sigh, forget it." Luckily, this junior brother from the grass division is a fool. He just came to Tianmu Peak and doesn't know anything. He still thinks that it's the same as outside, that herbs are valuable. Hee, weren't many of the Rejuvenation Valley's disciples like this in the past? They try their best to collect herbs that they've never seen before, but in the end, when they want to trade for pills, no one will trade with them, right? It's just that this hothead made too big of a commotion. He actually won against all the disciples. Hee, no matter how much you win, isn't it all just grass? How can it be more practical than medicinal pills? What a pity. This kid's martial arts are not bad. His Qinggong is even better than the great King Kong. Forget it. You've been tricked. What? Had he been cheated? What do you mean, senior martial brother? You stupid brain. No wonder you keep losing. Think about it. Who is the great King Kong? His lightness skill is second to none in our Tianmu Peak. Even if Headmaster Chen's martial arts is strong, he is no match for the great King Kong in terms of lightness skill. How could he lose to a hothead? I understand now. No wonder senior martial brother Lu said that the great guardian deity's expression didn't look right when he saw the final scene on Heaven Eye Peak. They must have made some secret deal. That's right. You only remembered it now. Then let's go find Elder Lei and ask him to uphold justice. Although he said this, his tone was weak. He didn't have the toughness of finding someone to uphold justice for him. Hee, isn't Elder Lei in the alchemy room in front? Junior martial brother. You can go ahead. It's just some medicinal pills. It's not like we haven't lost before. We can just win it back in the future. There's no need to offend the great King Kong. Junior martial brother. Do you understand why I didn't look for Elder Lei? Furthermore, Elder Lei was also present that day. He saw it with his own eyes and admitted that the great King Kong had lost. If you look for him again, won't you be giving Elder Lei a hard time? I understand. In the future, this hothead still has to participate in the competition. We can just get it back from him. Oh, he collected a lot of useless medicinal herbs. How can he give them to the great King Kong? Hee, this isn't a problem for us to consider. Anyway, the future is long. Let's wait and see. Yes, that's right. Let's go quickly. Elder Su is waiting anxiously. He might scold us again. If we go early, we'll be scolded. If we go late, we'll also be scolded. Why should we go early? That's true. Why is this small bone congealing pill so difficult to refine? Elder Su has already failed so many times. Look at what you're saying. If it wasn't difficult to refine, how could this small bone congealing pill be worth so much money? The 2 disciples talked as they walked. They didn't stop. In the end, they had already walked far away. Looking at the direction they were heading, Xianxia snorted coldly. People always make guesses. They think that they're right, but they don't know that the simplest reason can be the correct reason. However, this is also good. It's better than letting others know all of a sudden. Elder Su. Small bone congealing pill. After thinking for a moment, Xianxia did not go down to the ground. Instead, He slid up the treetops like a wisp of smoke and followed the two from afar. At this moment, Xianxia's eyes suddenly caught sight of a small gourd on the side of their sleeves. What's this symbol? Is it the symbol of the pill department? Xianxia was secretly surprised. After thinking about it carefully, she found that there seemed to be a grass-like symbol on the sleeves of Bai Huan and others. It was just that Xianxia had only been here for a short time, so she didn't have too close contact with these disciples of Tianmu Peak. As soon as she came here, they were gambling and paying off debts. How could she notice it? The pill department should be in the shape of a round pill. How can it be a gourd? The two people whispered to each other as they walked. Along the path, they came to a cave. They looked at each other and walked to the entrance of the cave, saying in unison, "Elder Su, we're here." Then, they heard a series of footsteps inside. Sure enough, it was one of the experts they saw in the gambling arena that day. As soon as Elder Su saw them, he scolded, "Didn't you two sleep last night? Why did you come so late? This old man has been waiting for a long time. This pill furnace is also hot and hot. This old man just asked you to be furnace boys for a few days. How can you be so lazy?" The two disciples hurriedly bowed. "Elder Su, please don't be angry. The top of Tianmu Peak is really high. Our lightness skills are limited, so we walked up step by step. There's no guarantee that we won't be delayed. Moreover, this time doesn't seem too late. You still dare to talk back? Quickly go in and help me sort out the medicinal herbs. When this furnace of pills is completed, I'll talk to Wu Dalong." Elder Su looked at the sky from the corner of his eyes. He seemed to know that he was in the wrong and was looking for a way out. The two disciples didn't dare to delay and quickly slipped into the cave. Consecrated Elder Su walked slowly behind him. After the three of them entered the cave, Xianxia revealed herself from behind a tree not far away. She looked at the cave and released her divine sense. After estimating the distance, she made a hand seal and burrowed into the ground. This was a very spacious cave. In the middle was a space the size of Rejuvenation Valley's pill room. Beside it was a small cave with a bed. It should be Elder Su's resting place. Xianxia appeared in this small cave. She saw that this pill room was actually similar to Rejuvenation Valley Master Nie's pill room. Against the mountain wall, there was a groove with a huge pill furnace on it. At this moment, there was a greenish-yellow flame burning under the pill furnace. It seemed to be earth fire. Xianxia carefully observed the pill furnace. Sure enough, there were palm-like things on both sides of the pill furnace. It was similar to Rejuvenation Valley's pill furnace. At this moment, Elder Su was already standing in front of the pill furnace. The two disciples squatted beside him and picked up some medicinal herbs. These medicinal herbs looked very fresh and should have been picked recently. Elder Su placed one hand on one side of the pill furnace and took the medicinal herbs with the other. He looked at them carefully and threw them into the pill furnace. Not long after, some medicinal fragrance wafted out from the pill furnace. After a while, more medicinal herbs were thrown into the furnace. Seeing Elder Su's ease and ease, Xianxia secretly nodded. "This is the authentic martial way of refining pills. It's much better than my unorthodox way of fumbling around." However, Xianxia didn't care about the martial way of refining pills, so she didn't have any intention of secretly learning. She looked around the pill room, made a hand seal, and escaped again. She floated up the tree and then floated down the mountain peak. The pill room on Tianmu Peak was also a typical martial way of refining pills. The pill furnace could also be controlled by internal energy. However, she didn't know if the method was the same as the enchanting finger. The pill room on Tianmu Peak also used earth fire. She didn't know how the earth fire was brought up from such a high peak. Of course, the incense cult was a great immortal sect with thousands of years of heritage. Their methods must be miraculous. This was just one of the simplest methods. After walking down for a while, her divine sense found that a cave appeared on the left side. There were flames lingering inside, so she turned around and went straight in. However, before she reached it, she heard a loud bang from the cave. Then, an old man with a face blackened by the explosion and straight gray hair escaped from the cave with unusual speed. Wasn't he Elder Feng, the one who asked Xianxia for the Yuhuandan pill that day? Hearing the explosion, Xianxia was shocked. Her divine sense couldn't reach far and couldn't see the situation around her. However, how could such a commotion not attract attention? She immediately made a hand seal and went to the side of Elder Feng, who was hurriedly tidying up his clothes and removing the dust from his hair. She quietly hid behind a mountain rock. As expected, before Old Consecrator Feng could finish packing up, Old Consecrator Su, Old Consecrator Lei, and the others rushed over. When they saw Old Consecrator Feng in such a sorry state, they smiled and said, "Brother Feng, you failed again?" "Sigh, yes. Who knows what happened? I followed the instructions recorded in the book and the steps seem to be correct. Why can't I refine the Yuhuandan pill? Even the small revitalizing pill keeps making mistakes." "What? Refining the pill until it exploded and you actually made yourself like this? To be able to refine the pill to this extent, Elder Feng can be considered to be proud of yourself." Hearing this, Xianxia couldn't help but secretly admire Elder Feng. Chapter 567. Don't worry, Old Feng. This Yuhuandan pill is the consummate skill of an inner sect alchemist. Back then, when we were in the inner sect, we didn't manage to successfully refine it. Now, it's probably impossible for us to refine it in one go. Let's slowly try. The other pills are also easy to deal with. If the refinement fails, then so be it. If this returning jade pill fails, then it will explode. Look at my beard, it will burn off sooner or later. It's a pity that the last time Wuzhou ruins took out the jade return pill, it was actually snatched away by Chen Fengxiao. Otherwise we could have studied it properly. Sigh, don't place your hopes on it. It's just a failed Yuhuandan pill. Even if it's the real Yuhuandan pill, haven't we seen it before? Why haven't we researched it yet? Alright, let's not talk about it anymore. Isn't it because we can't refine the Yuhuandan pill that we were exiled to this place? Didn't those old farts stay in the inner sect because they knew how to refine the Yuhuandan pill? Once I've researched it, I'll pass it on to all of you. We'll return in glory and let them worship us. Old Consecrator Lei smiled and said, "Alright, I'll leave this glorious and difficult task to Brother Feng. You must take care of your body. Don't lose your beard before your ambition is realized." Ha ha! Old Consecrator Su also laughed. At this moment, the dozen or so pill department disciples at the foot of the mountain also heard the commotion and came over. Old Consecrator Lei and the others waved their hands and gave a simple explanation of the situation before letting them leave. After those disciples walked far away, Xianxia didn't delay any longer. She burrowed into the ground and followed them from afar. The further down the mountain they went, the more disciples they encountered. There were also more caves like the alchemy rooms from before. The dozen or so disciples walked towards different alchemy rooms. Xianxia didn't deliberately follow them. She only quietly hid behind a large rock and used her divine sense to observe the surrounding movements. The terrain in this area was flat. There were 7 or 8 caves in the surroundings. Disciples entered and exited each cave from time to time. Some were holding medicinal herbs in their hands, some were holding jade bottles in their hands, and very few were even holding jade boxes in their hands. However, seeing that these caves were somewhat foggy, Xianxia lost interest in going in to investigate. At this time, he wasn't studying Rejuvenation Valley's alchemy techniques. There was no reason for him to be interested in this alchemy technique that was even inferior to orthodox martial arts alchemy. After thinking for a moment, Xianxia burrowed into the ground and headed towards the top of the mountain. When she turned to the north side of the mountain, there was only a stretch of cliffs. There wasn't any flat area, and of course, there was no place for people to stay. Xianxia only poked her head out to take a look before returning to the east side. At this time, there was still no one in the cottage. Bai Huan shouldn't have returned yet. Xianxia headed towards the south again. As he walked, he suddenly saw a steep area in the southeast corner. It seemed to be a cave. When he approached it, it was indeed so. Xianxia was overjoyed. The reason why he went from west to north and then from north to east was because he wanted to find a place to stay. Although there was a cottage next to the medicinal field, it was okay if only Xianxia lived there. However, with Bai Huan, who was similar to monitoring Xianxia, it was no longer an ideal place to stay. And this cave in the southeast corner was exactly the place in his heart. The entrance of the cave wasn't big and could only allow one person to enter. The inside of the cave was also quite big and very dry. At this time, the sun was shining in from afar and it was very bright. Xianxia casually looked around inside and felt satisfied. Only then did he come out. In fact, he had lived in this cave for a long time when he was on a deserted island overseas in his early years. As long as he could sit cross-legged, he didn't have any other requirements. After coming out of the cave, Xianxia still looked towards the south side of the mountain. The south side of the mountain seemed to be more gentle. There weren't many medicinal fields near the top of the mountain. Even if there were, they were very small and couldn't be planted with many herbs. The further down he went, the more herbs were planted. Every medicinal field was very big and precious herbs were planted in some corners. Many disciples of the grass division with a grass embroidered on their sleeves were busy. The scene was similar to the mountainside of the east side of the mountain. Seeing this scene, Xianxia shook his head. This wasn't a place he wanted to come often. However, he remembered that Headmaster Chen hadn't given him any clothes yet. So he turned and went back to the top of the mountain. When he came to the front of the cave, he looked down at the medicinal fields at the foot of the mountain. Xianxia was a little puzzled. He didn't know what the elders of the fragrance division had arranged. Only the west side of Tianmu Peak had many pill rooms for refining pills. The other three sides had very few caves. Just as he was thinking, he heard someone shout from afar, "Junior Brother Ren, Junior Brother Ren? Where are you?" Wasn't that Bai Huan's shout? Xianxia made a sound of acknowledgement and turned around the corner, walking towards the medicinal fields in the east. Hearing Xianxia's reply, Bai Huan quickly walked over. When she saw Xianxia's figure, she sighed in relief and asked, "Where did Junior Brother Ren go?" The south side of the mountain is also our grass division's territory. Did you go there? Xianxia smiled and nodded. Yes, when I was in Rejuvenation Valley, I didn't see so many medicinal fields. Now that I see it, I'm a little surprised. Haha, Junior Brother Ran is new here. He will know in the future that our Tianmu Peak doesn't have many medicinal fields. The north side is steep and there used to be some herbs, but they have all been picked. It's not easy to grow them now. The west side is still the pill division's territory and there aren't many varieties. Only the east and south sides can be grown. The other peaks, such as Three Reeds Peak, Baiyue Peak and Shixin Peak, are full of medicinal plants. That's spectacular. Oh, by the way, Shixin Peak has been taken away by the Misty Hall. The head of the Misty Hall has given the mountain to us. Although the mountain has only been in our possession for a few years, the mountain has already been planned. Together with the medicinal plants planted on the mountain, it can be compared to Shixin Peak. Then she smacked her lips a few times and said, Tisk, Tiske, Shixin Peak is a good mountain. It used to be the best mountain in our pill division. If not for the head of the Misty Hall's strict order, the Hall Master would not be willing to give it away. Misty Hall? Xianxia was ecstatic. He had been in the fragrance division for a few days and had been looking for a chance to ask about the Misty School. But he didn't have the chance and didn't dare to lead the topic to the Misty School. Now that Bai Huan mentioned it, he couldn't help but smile and said, Misty Hall? What does it do? Does it dig jade like Shuyu Hall? Haha, you don't know about this, do you? Bai Huan said proudly. You're also from the Rejuvenation Valley. Have you heard of the Misty School? Misty School? Xianxia had a strange expression and frowned. I think I've heard of it, but I also don't think I've heard of it. You know, I've always been in the Rejuvenation Valley and don't go out much. Bai Huan was a little disappointed and said with disappointment, Junior Brother Ren, your martial arts are so strong, but why don't you know anything about the pugilistic world? Don't you know the names of the pugilistic world's major sects like the Dalan Temple, Fragrance Division, Righteous Alliance, Misty School, Fallen Star Alliance and so on? Oh, speaking of this, of course I know. Jade Foundation Alliance. Whale Gang. I know about them too. You're right, but do you know who is the most powerful other than the Dalan Temple, Righteous Alliance, and Fragrance Division? I don't know. Isn't it our Jade Foundation Alliance? Guess again? It was as if Xianxia was a 5 or 6-year-old child who needed his guidance. Xianxia was helpless and said with his mouth agape, Could it be? The Misty School that senior brother Bai mentioned? Bingo! Bai Huan clapped and laughed. That's right. This Misty School is the most powerful sect in the pugilistic world other than the Dalan Temple, Righteous Alliance and us. But do you know what happened to this Misty School? Zhang Xiaohua frowned. How would I know? Then, he pretended to be enlightened and said, could it be? This Misty School has something to do with our ethereal hall? Bai Huan clapped again and said with a smile. That's right. Our ethereal hall is the Misty School that was destroyed by us 4 years ago. Their disciples were brought back by our leader and they established our ethereal hall. The Misty School was destroyed by our fragrance division? Zhang Xiaohua was a little surprised. Why was this different from what Chu Yunfei, the Misty School's disciple, said? And it was also different from the rumors in the pugilistic world. Bai Huan said proudly, of course. We, the cult of fragrance, destroyed the Misty sect with just a little finger and brought back the remaining disciples. But, our fragrance division rarely gets involved in the pugilistic world. Why did this Misty School provoke us? Why did we destroy them all at once? Also, senior brother Bai, I want to ask, since Shixin Peak is the best peak in the pugilistic world, why was it forcefully taken away and given to the ethereal hall? Zhang Xiaohua laughed in her heart, but asked with a puzzled expression. Maybe the Misty sect has been doing whatever they want in the Jianghu and offended the disciples of our fragrant cult outside. Although our fragrant cult can't enter and leave the Jianghu as we please, there are still many disciples outside the Jianghu. I guess it's them who have a grudge with the Misty sect. Hee, they dare to offend our fragrant cult? Are they tired of living? If it weren't for this damn passage, the whole pugilistic world would have been ours long ago. Haha, if a small and insignificant disciple in the pugilistic world thinks like this, I don't know what the outer and inner disciples are thinking. They are really frogs in a well. Oh, it's really hard to say. The fragrance division has passed down the cultivation method of immortality for thousands of years. If there is someone like me, wouldn't it be? But the chi of heaven and earth in the fragrance division is thin, so it's unlikely. Zhang Xiaohua thought for a while and felt a little uneasy. She suddenly asked, all right, senior brother Bai, you haven't answered my question. Shixin Peak is such a good peak. Why was it given to the ethereal hall? Why don't you just let them come to Tianmu Peak? Zhang Xiaohua had been inquiring about her second brother, so naturally she couldn't talk about the ethereal hall. Alas, the pugilistic world is cruel. What she saw now was only the peaceful side. Chapter 568. Well, Bai Huan really couldn't justify himself. He was just a low-level disciple. Everything he knew was hearsay. Now he was using it to fool Zhang Xiaohua and show off his profound knowledge. How could he know such a profound question? He rolled his eyes and said with a smile, pacification, junior brother Ren doesn't know about it. Pacification? If you don't understand, please enlighten me. Zhang Xiaohua was eager for him to say more. Of course, she would take advantage of the situation. Bai Huan pinched the beard under his chin with his hand and said confidently, although the Misty School is worthless in our fragrance cult, after all, it is a super sect in Jianghu. Think about it. They were easily destroyed by us and sent here from afar. They are no longer as glorious as they used to be. Do you think they can feel balanced? Oh, I also heard that many people in their sect were seriously injured. Their bones were crushed by the old consecrator, and they were paralyzed on the bed, unable to move at will. There were also many first-class masters in Jianghu, but they were also crippled by our cult master's finger. They were so weak that they could not even truss a chicken. How could they not be resentful? Then he looked around and said mysteriously, you don't know that several halls of our fragrance cult are not on good terms with the Misty Hall. The disciples of the Misty Hall are not good at martial arts, but they are united. They often fight with some outer disciples. Moreover, in order to restrict them, the disciples of our Pill Repository Hall are forbidden to contact the disciples of the Misty Hall for fear that some elixirs will flow into the Misty Hall. Then he said, oh, I digress. Let's continue to talk about pacification. Our hierarch is a man of great talent and bold vision. He has long considered the resentment of the disciples of the Misty Hall. Therefore, he used both kindness and coercion to allocate the best Shirxin Peak to them and let them live a good life there. It is said that there are many inner disciples around the Shirxin Peak to guard and prevent people from entering or leaving the Shirxin Peak at will. Hey, since you can't enter Shirxin Peak at will, how can you still have a conflict with the people of Misty Hall? Sigh, you don't understand. Junior brother Ren, although Shirxin Peak is rich in resources and has the best medicinal herbs, it's impossible for them to seclude themselves. There are many things that they have to communicate with other halls. For example, if they don't give us their medicinal herbs, can they refine their own pills? Oh, I heard that the Misty Hall also has some alchemists, but compared with our Pill Tower Hall, they are far inferior. Xianxia smiled and said, I understand now. The disciples of the sect must have seen that the Misty Hall is a newcomer and deliberately wanted to bully them. It's just like the first night I came to Tianmu Peak. This. Bai Huan was a little embarrassed. On that day, he had asked Zhang Xiaohua openly and secretly for filial piety. Now that he saw that Zhang Xiaohua could even kill the 10 great King Kongs, how could he dare to mention what happened that day? Now that Zhang Xiaohua mentioned it, although she didn't mention his attitude toward Zhang Xiaohua, he was still extremely embarrassed. Ahem, Bai Huan coughed and said, how can the Misty Hall be compared with Junior Brother Ren? Junior Brother Ren is a direct disciple of our fragrance cult. He came in openly from Rejuvenation Valley, but they all changed their minds halfway. No one can guarantee that they will betray the fragrance cult tomorrow. Who will give them face? Moreover, Junior Brother Ren is a genius. Although he is young, his martial arts are superb. Even the great King Kongs have to give way to him. The Misty Hall is just a disabled hall. Who will care about their life and death? Oh! Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but frown, and a trace of sternness flashed through her eyes. Since even a disciple like Bai Huan said so, the situation of the Misty School in the fragrance cult could be seen from this. By the way, Senior Brother Bai, I have only been to the fragrance cult for a short time. First, I came to Baiyue Peak, and then came to our Tianmu Peak. May I know where Shirxin Peak is? Bai Huan didn't suspect anything and pointed to a small black spot under the sun in the east, saying, Look, isn't it over there? Zhang Xiaohua looked over and couldn't see clearly. She couldn't help but ask in surprise, why is it so far? I remember that it only takes half a day to go from Baiyue Peak to Tianmu Peak. You don't know this. Bai Huan once again put on the appearance of a good teacher, pointing to the dozens of clear or unclear black spots in the sea of clouds and said, The 19 peaks of our fragrant religion, I heard that there is some kind of formation, with the Lingxiang Peak as the center. The other 18 peaks are scattered around it in picturesque disorder. But the surroundings are not circular, like the Big Dipper. And our Tianmu Peak and Baiyue Peak are the furthest away from the Shirxin Peak, almost 3 or 4 days of travel. So far, Zhang Xiaohua was a little disappointed. This Bai Huan must have been sent by Chen Fengxiao to spy on her. If it was like Baiyue Peak, with half a day of travel, she could go back and forth in a day. Perhaps she could find a reason to go. But Shirxin Peak actually took 3 or 4 days. Wouldn't it take her 7 or 8 days to go back and forth? It was hard to give any reason. Alas, I'd better stay at Tianmu Peak for now. I'll wait until I'm familiar with Chen Fengxiao and he is no longer wary of me. Zhang Xiaohua could only comfort herself like this. She directly ignored the inner disciples guarding Shirxin Peak. When Zhang Xiaohua first entered the fragrant religion, he was extremely worried about his second brother's safety. He wanted to find the Misty Hall as soon as possible so that he could be at ease when he saw his second brother with his own eyes. However, after what he had seen and heard in the fragrant religion for the past few days, he found that the martial arts of the fragrant religion disciples were mediocre and they did not have much contact with the outside world. The disciples of the Pill Repository Hall were all very ordinary, and they were far inferior to the disciples of the Misty sect that he had met before. Even Ye Xiao Er might not be able to compare with them. Therefore, he was not worried about his second brother's safety. If his second brother could reach the fragrant religion safely, then he would be staying at the Shirxin Peak. However, if something were to happen to him, then even if he went to the Shirxin Peak now, he might not be able to see his second brother alive. At this time she heard Bai Huan say mysteriously, Junior Brother Ren, in fact, there is a story about these 19 mountains. I don't know if you have heard of it? Story? Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. He smiled and said, "Of course I haven't heard of it. When I entered the fragrance cult, it was by Yu Peak and Tianmu Peak. The first disciple I really met was Senior Brother Bai. No one has confided in me as much as Senior Brother Bai. How could I know?" Bai Huan was very comfortable with this so-called flattery. She smiled and said, "There are many stories in our fragrance cult. For example, these 19 mountains. I heard that only lingering fragrance peak was on the ground, and the other 18 mountains were suspended in the air." Ah! Zhang Xiaohua opened his mouth wide and looked at the islands in the sea of clouds in disbelief. How is that possible? Then she looked at Tianmu Peak under her feet and stamped her feet. Tianmu Peak is also suspended in the air? Yes. Bai Yu Peak, Shixin Peak, and the others are all suspended in the air, Bai Huan said firmly. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaohua was a little hesitant. The fragrance cult was a great immortal sect, so it was not strange for them to have shocking stories. Zhang Xiaohua herself was an immortal cultivator, so she should be able to accept it. But to think that these mountains were suspended in the air and formed a complete formation to protect lingering fragrance peak was really beyond Zhang Xiaohua's understanding. There was no such description in the jade slip. However, Zhang Xiaohua's mind immediately lit up. Other formations aside, the rabbit talisman and rooster talisman in her mud pill palace, as well as the golden ball they formed, were not on the same plane. If someone really had great magic power, they might be able to refine these talismans one by one to form a complete formation. Or if they refined each mountain into a talisman, perhaps they really could form a suspended formation. But how great would their magic power be? Perhaps only the legendary Foundation establishment cultivators could do it. Sigh. Poor Zhang Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohua had no one to teach him. He had only heard of the Foundation establishment stage. He simply regarded the Foundation establishment stage as the end of his cultivation. Perhaps only when he reached that stage would he realize that there was always someone better than him. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's stunned and incredulous expression, Bai Huan was very satisfied. She smiled and said, "However, this is just an old story. You can't take it seriously. Anyway, I still don't believe it. If you want it to be suspended in the air, what if the seniors of the fragrance cult slip and fall from the mountain? Wouldn't they be smashed into a meat patty? Moreover, they just want to drop by. What should we do? We can't use a rope to get to the ground first and then climb a rope to another mountain." Hearing this, Zhang Xiaohua was sweating profusely. She was not afraid of being uncultured, but she was afraid of talking nonsense. Bai Huan really dared to imagine that if the people of the Way of Immortality didn't have the means to fix the things on the mountain, as long as the mountain was suspended in the air, all the stones and plants on the mountain would tumble down, falling to death. She really dared to imagine. If the Way of Immortality hadn't been destroyed, the people of the Way of Immortality must have some kind of floating technique. How could they fall down so easily? Bai Huan proudly expressed her opinion and stunned Zhang Xiaohua. She said, "By the way, Junior Brother Ren, why did you come down? Let's go. I've brought up your bedding and other things. Let's clean up the hut first. You don't know, these people are really lazy. Although they don't stay every night, you should still clean up the peels and paper scraps. It's piled up like a mountain inside. If I had known, I would have let them clean up first." Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously, "Senior Brother Bai, can you carry your bedding and mine?" "Of course I can't, but I can ask the other senior brothers to help me." "Then why don't you just ask them to help clean up?" Cough cough. "Headmaster Chen isn't here. How would I dare to order them around? They're even using Junior Brother Ren's name to deliver the bedding." Zhang Xiaohua was speechless. You're tuning in to the Wisdom Diary YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.